All right, everybody. So here I am with the Custody Queens. I saw you guys with Birdie and I watched that show. And then later on, I was excited when you guys reached out to me and said, hey, that video footage you showed on Birdie was super cool. Can we talk to you about it one-on-one? So this is our opportunity and I'm excited to meet you guys. I really love that you're in law because I would love to ask you some questions about the courtroom stuff and Taylor's presentation, how you felt about that and stuff like that. So I'd love to get into some legal stuff as well as watching these videos. But nice to meet you both, Sam and Kristen. So thanks for having me with you.
And thank you for having us. For anyone, we're kind of new to the crime documentary and just crime junkie era, I guess. But Kristen and I are so happy to be here. We're California certified family law specialists, but we're also true crime junkies. So it's been a very fun and quick entry into this sort of area, and we can't be more excited about it.
I was trying to figure out how you guys got into that. Like how did you pick up as a side gig doing true crime stuff and getting into YouTube videos and all that stuff?
Well, I can tell you, and that's a great question. The answer to that is Kristen Holstrom, and she struggles with sleep. And so she spends a whole lot of time online digging through all this stuff, and me and her get along like sisters. We pretty much are sisters at this point because we've worked together for 11 years, but she started coming into my office. She was getting into the Idaho 4 case, and we were always kind of talking about crime documentaries and stuff. I think it's always interesting from just a legal perspective because we do family law all day. And so, family law sometimes can be a little bit,
mundane.
Yeah, I don't know a polite word for it, but you get tuckered out, and so being able to kind of look at the crime side of it, but also apply legal analysis is kind of just like a fun little niche for us. But Kristen definitely paved the way. And then one day came into my office and said, we're going to start a podcast. And I said, cool.
It's interesting I was curious how much of your type of law with custody law translates into murder crime thing. Like how much of the legal proceedings is the same stuff you guys see every single day, or how different is it to be in a murder trial, for example, versus a custody battle?
So a lot of the legal issues are similar, right? You have evidence, you have to get it into evidence, you have testimony, you have witnesses. How do we get this point across? A lot of the trial stuff is very similar, the legal processes and the evidence. But when you get to, because family law is one of the civil courts, right? So our burden is significantly lower, but we do a lot of domestic violence. Sam and I are huge domestic violence advocates, and we've been doing those for over a decade. So there are a lot of crossovers. Sometimes when clients come in, they will have an underlying criminal case as well. So they have the family law restraining order where their ex is requesting one through the family court. They likely have a criminal protective order, and then they have the underlying criminal defense case. So it's a lot of crossover. Usually Sam and I will bring in someone, or we'll have our client go get a criminal attorney, and then we work collaboratively. But there's a lot of similarities and then there's not. But when I look at courtroom stuff, Sam and I can, we were going through that restitution hearing that just came up. The law is the law, following the law, being persuasive, making sure that the judge and their ruling is on par with the law. That's all the same.
Yeah. It's interesting because there's so, sorry, did you want to add something?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I have so many things I wanted to talk to you about, and it's coming to me in a stream of consciousness. One of the things that I thought about you guys on was when I went to the what did they call it? When Kohberger changed his plea. So when he actually read in the guilty plea and changed his plea in the sentencing, right? Well, no, it wasn't a sentencing, because the sentencing was a separate thing afterwards. This was just his change of plea. So I was actually at full
change of plea.
Well, maybe the second one was the witness impact statements, where they came and got to basically say their thing. I was at two different ones, right? So when I was at that, I remember they told us, hey, look, the courtroom today may be a little dicey because there's custody battles going on, and people may be losing their kids today inside the courtroom. And so we expect that there could be a lot of drugs. So there was high security. And I was thinking of you guys, I'm like, oh, custody battles. I'm sure when parents are losing their kids on a decision, people probably lose their shit a little bit. So there was a lot of extra security. I thought it would be enough security with Kohberger alone, but they added the, hey, look, this could be nutbaggish because we have people that could lose their kids today, and this is gonna be a big thing. And I thought about you guys, like, oh yeah, that would be like, you'd be down the hall working on that custody case, and somebody just lost their kids. So.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about family law is some of it is very straightforward. But then there's a lot of it that you have to think like, everybody has families, everybody has kids. And so you get a lot of people that maybe have criminal backgrounds, people that are, not from the greatest circumstances, still have to litigate. And it's probably one of the most, short of, I think in some senses, criminal law can sometimes outshine that, but it's one of the more emotional laws. But I think probably the best way to really describe the difference between family law and criminal law for me is it's like we're playing one sport and then we're watching another sport. And so we're really like antiquated with the fact that some of the rules are different, but we kind of are athletes. So we know how to interpret it and how to see it. So we certainly learn something new every day when we're following or watching like an Idaho criminal case and we're California family law lawyers. But I think that there's a lot that gets missed in just the way the media portrays it. A lot of times because it's the boring stuff, but for people that really want to kind of understand the case, a lot of times, Kristen and I talk about this all the time. It's like a judge may make a ruling and maybe you don't agree with the judge, but maybe he is applying the law or applying the discretion that he's allowed to in that hearing. Maybe it doesn't look as crazy as it is, or maybe it's a lot more crazy than it seems.
Right. And it's funny that you mention it because not everybody who's into true crime enjoys the legal side of it. Like I really enjoy breaking down legal documents and getting into it and then thinking about, well, this is why this motion was filed and this is why they ruled that way and explaining it to people. I do a fairly good job at it, even though I have no training in law, but I really enjoy that part. So I think that that's what's cool about having attorneys on the shows, because I think you guys probably also can appreciate, well, this is why that motion was filed and this is why they ruled that way. And it's just it's getting the procedure out of the way so that you can get, and I think that I enjoy that part, but not everybody enjoys that part. But I think hopefully people who watch me or resonating with me in part because I like to dig into the legal documents as well. And I think one of you, I hope it was one of you. I thought I heard one of you say something about you're not a super fan when a judge wants to pull you into chambers and your client's not there kind of thing, because you'd rather your client hear everything out and not. Was it one of you that said that?
It was.
Yeah. And I was thinking to myself, I'm all about transparency. Like I'd like everything to be out in the open. I hate closed door meetings where certain people are not left out. And especially if the client himself is not hearing what the lawyers are agreeing to behind closed doors with the judge. If that's, well, I don't know that happens a whole terrible, but the point being is that all of that stuff, closed doors, things sealed, the gag orders, like the gag orders in the Idaho 4 case is driving me nuts. Even to this day, why do we still have so much sealed in this case? It's right. It's insane. What do you guys think about
Yeah, I don't like any. I mean, you have to think criminal's even worse. But when Sam and I are representing clients, we're often getting these people in one of their most emotional, desperate places in their life. And we have to be problem solvers. We are belt and suspenders types of attorney. We're constantly having a backup plan to the backup plan, because family law is the wild, wild west. It really is. When people tell me, oh, you're never going to believe this, 99% of the time we have been through that. We've seen it, and you do get a little desensitized to the process, but every now and then things will still get us. So when I first was into this case, I knew about it. I knew a little bit for probably like the first year and a half, but I was not super beyond the headlines. To be honest, I didn't know much about it. And then the first Dateline came out and I watched it. And I kind of went on a binger that weekend and found Birdie and Outcast. You were one of the first 5 that I started watching. And I was like, this stuff is not adding up. Like, I have never believed that this was a one-person job. It's just so hard for me to process the time frame, the storyline. It doesn't make sense. So that was the initial thing. And then the 911 call. And I was like, you have got and I would go into Sam's office. We have a couple offices in between her. And I was trying to go back to like March or April when I started. I was trying to go back to find all of the screenshots I was sending her. But I got a new phone. So I don't have them. I'll have to get them from her. But it was like boom, 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 to the point where she was like, Kristen, you just sent me 12 hours. I'm like, okay, go to Devil's Advocate, this episode, 12-minute mark, and watch until here. And every day I was like, he did it. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. And then,
well, what happened was I told Kristen, we got to have you're overwhelming with this. We have to have a new chat of like my must watch content.
Yes, she made me do a new chat.
But as you can imagine, that too has gone out of control.
Right. Well, it's funny because, there's a perception that people who are more educated like yourself or couldn't possibly get into Birdie and and, for example, YouTubers, because you're thinking, oh, these guys are they're making a living on being clickbaity and they're whatever. And I'm like, for me, there's no clickbait about this shit. There are real problems with this case. And I'm trying to highlight those. And so it's nice to see professionals who are like, yeah, this guy's not just pulling shit out of his ass. Like, there is problems with the 911 call. There is problems why the police didn't ask a follow-up question on this or that. And so I feel like in that regards, it's the best thing you guys can do for shows like ours to give us some legitimacy that look, you're not just making fun of us YouTubers who are out there pulling stuff out of our butt, that we're asking questions that maybe mainstream media is not asking and should have been asking. And so I appreciate that from both of you.
The level of intelligence that we have seen over the last few months, and we talked a lot about, we've been true crime people for a long time, just more, lurkers in the background, right? And I think it was August, and I went and I said, Sam, there is not really any female attorneys really talking about much of true crime. I probably watched 50 different creators. What is their vibe? What is their style? How do I react to their stuff? And I just was blown away at how many people were just repeating narratives.
Yeah.
Going to ChatGPT, tell me what the update is, and reading a script. And I told Sam, because we have a really fun our banter with each other. And I'm the one that usually comes in hot, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and this and this and this. And she hones me in, keeps me on track. But the level of intelligence that I have seen from all of the creators that we love, and I don't even want to give names because there's so many, but like you, sure. Birdie, Bubbly, Outcast, Rolo's videos, there are so many people, Pop, like everybody does something in their own right. And I think there's more intelligence in these YouTube channels than the vast majority of my opposing parties or my opposing counsel that I've been against for the last decade.
Yeah, and I super appreciate that. I feel to some extent, I don't want to get conspiratorial, but I think mainstream media just too much buys into the official narrative. They kind of have their talking points. It's not really shedding a lot. They don't do investigative journalism as much as they used to. I think YouTubers are becoming investigative journalists because we're learning that mainstream media is going to fail us on that. They're not going to ask the tough questions. They softball everything, and they want to keep their relationships with the law enforcement and whatever. So anyways, side rant.
No, I agree though. I think I think it's a good rant because for me, I'm really big on credibility, and a lot of credibility is found in details. And where, the media doesn't lose me in every case over every issue or everything they're reporting, but there just is this huge gap of information. Like if you look at the gag order and then we start getting more information, but you see no change in the perception in the media at all. So it doesn't matter what information is given to you, the media doesn't change. So that to me just raises a huge red flag. Whereas the more information we get and the closer we get down to the micro level of it, like, hey, this picture here, this video here, this piece of evidence, this interview, we're the only ones doing that. And so it's hard for me to just, and I think it should be hard for everyone to just ignore that the position hasn't changed at all from the media, and not at all. Now there's some new evidence that looks a little sketchy, but here's still why this is BK. It's like, nope, it's as if it didn't happen. Let's just keep moving. The algorithm, is in our favor.
That's what it is. It's the SEO, search engine optimization. They're getting a script with buzzwords. And they have to knock those off to make sure that they are in line with all the community guidelines from all the platforms. And they're just repeating. Ashley Banfield, right? Is she the... Yeah. Okay. She said one thing out of all the videos that I've scanned and listened to, she said one time where there was anything that was inconsistent with the mainstream media. And it was talking about when the evidence came out that Ethan may have been unalived in the door frame. Mm-hmm. Remember, before going in. And she said, I have to make sure I let everyone know that this is inconsistent with the last report. That is the only time I have ever heard any of the big dogs with the mainstream media counter back and say, not only is this inconsistent, this is complete opposite of what we reported 2 weeks ago. Yeah,
it's a disturbing phenomenon, and I know that I can't wait to show you some video footage and talk to you guys about the actual crime, but I can't get out of my head of the legal stuff because I really want to
go for it.
I take this opportunity, I want to ask, have you watched some of the, have you watched a considerable amount of Ann Taylor, for example, making presentation on video in the courtroom? And have you, by contrast, watched another case, Luigi Mangione and Karen Agnifilo? Have you seen her in courtroom as
I
well?
do not know anything about her. It's on my to-do list.
Fair enough. And the only reason I'm asking is because I just feel like there's I don't want to disrespect Ann Taylor, but I feel like there was a massive difference in quality of attorney between Karen Agnifilo and Ann Taylor. Ann Taylor felt to me like she was intimidated by Hippler. She stumbles over her words a lot. She can't articulate herself super well, I feel. And even though I could see, because I feel like I'm a relatively smart guy, I'm like, I know where Ann's going with this, and I know what the foundation she's trying to lead, so she can come back later and say this, and I can see it. And I'm like, that's great. But I didn't feel like she was on top of her game. I wonder how much the case would have been different if there would have been a little stronger attorney. I almost wonder if that's the case. But I don't know if you how did you feel about Ann Taylor's demeanor? Do you think she was really good and she was a great attorney for it, or do you think she failed something, or?
Well, let me start with this. I think Ann did a good job with what she had, but most of litigation, which is trial, right, is courtroom presence. So I think she was overwhelmed from the onset. I think that she was intentionally being overwhelmed by opposing counsel and the way the prosecution was dropping the documents and not giving them things until the last minute, if not ever. I think she was always playing from behind. But I do agree, even the fact that her tone of voice doesn't change, or when things weren't going her way, it's okay to raise your voice. It's okay to change your posture. It is okay to be dramatic and use your hands at times. I think that she was a little dry. I think that this might have been a little bit out of her realm when she got this case. And I think that when you're playing from behind every second of every day, it gets hard.
It's funny because, oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I keep cutting you off and you're about to add. Yeah.
I was just going to add on real quick. I think that, it's hard to gauge whether or not certain strategic moves could have changed how the landscape of this case went. But I think that any attorney, if they're truly attorneying, I guess that's a bad word, but at their highest level, that you have to be confident. You have to believe that attorney is more confident than anyone in their room at all times, even if you are scared. You cannot blink because everyone is looking at you as, attorney, officer of the court. Essentially, you've taken an oath and you are zealously advocating for your client. So I think if people see you sweating, that does hurt any case. Now, does it hurt the case so much that this is where we are because of it? I think there's a lot of other stuff there that we could point at before that. But I do think it's incredibly crucial, especially in a criminal case. Certainly it is in family law, to show up and be more confident than anyone in that room. I think that's a huge part of it, especially the jury.
When the judge gets it wrong, you let them know, with all due respect, Your Honor, this does not support the law. And I do think she pushed back a little bit more than we had seen her on the last hearing. Yeah. But I mean, I think if you had Samurai in there, we would have pushed a lot harder. But again, we don't know what she was missing. We don't know a lot of the kind of behind the scenes stuff that may have affected her presentation style.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to tie us. Sorry.
I keep doing it to you. You go.
Well, I don't mean to tie it down into the minutia, but again, and I don't want to beat this too long because you haven't seen a lot of it, but when Karen Agnifilo writes a response to the judge to say that something's wrong in this case, she lets him have it. It is this is why they're wrong. This is why you're wrong. This is why you must rule this way. And sure, she's making an argument. And at the end of the day, the judge gets to make the decision. But the point being is that I didn't see a lot of that pushback from Ann. She wasn't real forceful. It's kind of well, judge, I kind of disagree with you, and then moved on to another point. I'm no, you need to hammer him. You need to let him know why that is against the rule, why other court cases have cited this way, and you have the weight, she didn't really fight really well.
No, she didn't. So. She backed off pretty quickly. Sam, what do you?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of advocacy is persuasion. When you're citing the law, you need to inform the judge of the law, but you also need to bleed in the facts to let them know why you're right and they're wrong, and to ignore the fact that the court is gauging how each side, I mean, of course, they're supposed to apply the law and apply the facts, and if they have discretion over that issue, make the call. But it all goes back to the confidence of the person speaking to you. If you have a counsel that is talking to you and you don't believe that they believe themselves, that's a hard play. Similarly with a jury, if you have a jury going, well, I don't think he did. I don't know. I mean, maybe his kind of attorney's just up there doing her job. She doesn't look very confident that he's innocent. I mean, you want to believe the story because you need to believe their story so that you can have reasonable doubt. And if the attorney appears to doubt what she's doing, I think that's a huge issue.
Yeah, right. And that's my point.
That's what trial is. It's a presentation. It's a show. It's a show. And I think that Anne could have put on a better show.
Agreed. And you know, I'm going to show my age, but I think back to the O.J. Simpson trial, and there was a team of lawyers, and they'd have different lawyers come up and their strong points, right? And they would make an argument to the jury or to the, you know, and during their portion, and they were good at it. They were masterful at it. Whereas, you know, in this team, we got Anne doing everything, and she's probably not good at certain types of defense, it seemed like. So it just felt like, in that regards, I don't know that it would have changed the outcome of anything, but I just don't feel like Anne was probably up for the task as much. Some people have criticized that Anne got her paycheck from the same place that, you know, they're all paid by the state, and she's a public defender. At least at some point during the trial, she was public defender. I think she went into private practice during the trial. But
if we would have had a private team, like a private attorney, there would have been multiple attorneys. You would be having someone do the research on the alternative suspect. You would have had an audio expert diving into all of the audios, okay? The 911 calls, all of the ring cams, how far proximity. You're having an expert come through and talk about DNA, all of the phone data, electronic. You have someone else doing every specific area. I can tell you, like, Sam's probably one of the best cross-examination attorneys in the world. I would probably be more of the one that would be the closing or the opening because I'm very persuasive. But each attorney has, I always say, if you're an attorney that does everything, you're generally not good at anything. And every attorney should know their role on what their strengths are. And we are not good at everything.
Yeah.
So it begs the difficult question, and I swear we're gonna get into some fun stuff instead of just being all serious. But it begs the question.
Stuff.
I know, but it begs the question: does money make a better defense? If you can afford that team of private lawyers and you've got specialists in each one, or you're the poor schmuck that doesn't have a lot of money to defend himself. And I don't mean to disparage public defenders and with that, but the point being is it true that when you have a team of lawyers, you're going to have a better defense and you're going to have a better outcome than if you are a guy that's just assigned the public defender of the day and this is their case and they've got 30 other cases they got to deal with, and they have 5 minutes to meet with you before they go stand in front of the judge.
That's like the biggest issue right there.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of really ineffective attorneys who charge way too much and are at big firms. And so you can pour your money to anyone. But I think it also stands to reason that the best attorneys are probably getting paid a premium for a reason. They're probably, even if they started as a public defender, at some point going to go into private practice and know their worth and build their career. So I think it stands to reason that the best attorneys would also be pretty expensive.
All right.
Hold on to add on that really quick. And I don't want to say that the facts are the facts, right? So if there is evidence that is 100% pointing to somebody doing, look at the Karen Reed trial, okay? I thought that attorney was amazing. He had me convinced very, very early on that she didn't do it. And I would continue to take the notes as I went through the trial. The dog bite thing, I was like, I thought he explored that even better the second time. I think that was something that should have hit harder the first go around, but he put on a show. He demanded to be the star of that courtroom. He did not put up any BS that he was getting back from the pushback from any judicial officers. You can be respectful, but you can also lay your record in a way that says, hey, Your Honor, with all due respect, I would like you to tell me what your findings are, because by the way, we're going to be taking this up on appeal. But you have 10 attorneys working on your case versus one, you have 10 brilliant minds. And public defenders are generally, they're usually assigned to, 100 cases. They show up, they meet their clients, maybe at the jail a couple days before or the morning of, hey, any more information I need to know? They generally are very good attorneys. I just think that their hands are tied.
And a little overwhelmed, I'm sure. Like, it's not even their fault. They're just literally overwhelmed. A
lot of them go on to be very, very, very successful private criminal defense attorneys. A lot of DAs and public defenders go on to have very successful careers. And why do they stay in criminal defense or potentially civil? Is because they all know the evidence code in and out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's transition a little bit out of the legal mumbo jumbo in case people aren't as excited about that stuff as I am, and talk about these videos that I shot. So, and again, I'm not 100% sure just how immersed in Idaho 4 you've been. Are you?
Oh,
do you have any? You're pretty in there.
No,
and do you have feelings
deep.
about Brent
I would say
Kopacka?
that I have probably watched 200 plus hours
Oh wow.
of videos.
Yeah.
I probably dove in a few months before, but I was definitely sending Sam the biggest ones that I either found were like, holy cow, if this is true, let's go research more. But we have both been neck deep, I would say May, June. So we are pretty, now don't quote us on a specific minute or, some of these other third party people that you hear their name. So we'll let you know if we're not 100% sure, but we know the vast majority of it.
Excellent. So I'm going to show a video that we showed before. And part of the reason why I was asking is because other creators don't hit it as hard as I do. I've always had a gut feeling that the death of Brent Kopacka wasn't unrelated, that there's some kind of relation to Brent Kopacka. I think there's a very likely, I've said it, I'm sure you've heard it a million times. I think there's connections potentially between Kohberger and Kopacka, and they lived right across the street from each other. So I'm going to show this footage. You guys have seen it once before.
I don't disagree with you on that.
Yeah. So I'm going to show the nighttime footage again. Now, for those who aren't necessarily familiar, just to give you some background, the night before the murders, there was a car accident on, oh shit, is it? I say the name of the street in this video, but it's right where Kohberger and Kopacka may have lived. And now Kohberger, we know, lived there because that was his actual residence. Kopacka is a little bit of a mystery because where Kopacka was shot and killed was on the opposite side of town from where this happens. However, in a video in June, Kopacka had a run-in with officers, and on the body camera, they asked where he lived, and he said the Pimlico Apartments, which is right across the street from Kohberger at this location. So that's one of the mysteries in this case, right?
And
where was Kopacka really living?
He served in the military with the Moscow PD, right?
Yes, with Detective Payne. They both served 82nd Airborne, and oddly enough, in the same combat division. Which, so as a side tangent, people will bust my nuts. You realize the 82nd Airborne is an enormous division. There's like 30,000 soldiers in that thing. That means nothing that they served in. Like, okay, it's not just the 82nd Airborne. It's 82nd Airborne, both paratroopers, both in the 4th Combat Division or team. It is way more specific than that. Now, while I can't place them serving at the same time, there's a brotherhood in the military. If you guys served in the same combat division and your same team, you're probably going to have a brotherhood. Did they meet at a VFW? There's like a million speculations, and that's just it. We'll leave it at speculations, but it's odd to me that you can't just completely ignore the Brent Kopacka situation, considering all the connections, and that the lead detective in the case is in the same combat division or combat team as Brent Kopacka. So anyways, we'll play this on.
Detective was basically, that was his first really big case. So why did he get appointed to be the lead when he did not have the experience to support that appointment whatsoever?
Just drop out of law, start a YouTube channel. You guys are YouTubers all the way through and through, so that's what you need to do. All right, so let's play this. I'm going to put it on the screen. This is the nighttime footage you've seen. Now, I've saved for you guys, by the way, a premiere of daytime footage of the same kind of thing. That is I think is gonna have some real bombshells to talk about. So I'm really excited to show it to you about. So it's gonna be lengthy for people, but feel free to stop me at any time that you want to ask a clarifying question on the video. I know you've seen this first video before. So let me put it on stage. This should be it right here.
If you think there's anything that we should talk about, feel free to stop it as well.
Okay.
You can engage in that conversation about it.
Yeah. So I'm in the car on this video with Joe from State of the Deep. He's a guy that I met at CrimeCon, and we're talking together, doing a live stream with viewers. So that's some narrative that's going on in the video here.
So Thursday night was a good night to go out.
Yeah, Brandy Way is where we're turning on. So you don't need to listen to our talk right here. Right now we're turning on to Brandy Way. Right around the corner is where an accident happened the night before.
A little view while we drive with DA's
Trying to keep the camera from
Shitty
dumping
camera.
off the bird seed.
Yeah.
Pretty bad lighting.
Cameras still
It,
hanging in.
yeah, yeah, it is. It's nighttime drive, but yeah, it's bad.
No,
lighting.
I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying that the
Oh.
area is no. I am not dogging on your camera. I am not dogging on your
Just-
camera.
Jeez, the
I
camera.
know. It's like Joe already busted my nuts
I think
enough
your
about
friend
the.
already did that enough. No, I was
Fair,
just
I
pointing out that
understand what
it's not very lit up, especially when you're coming
Yes.
around this curve right here. The
Yeah.
lamps are
Hence
pretty far apart. The lights are pretty
Hence
far
the
apart.
reason why 2 people got hit by a car. A drunk driver hit 2 people. It's dark as shit on this corner, right? So it'd be this whole area is very, very. You're right, very, very dark. And I think that's what led to this drunk driver hitting a couple people. This girl got a couple of her legs broken. Well, you only have 2 legs, but both legs broken. And the other individual was in the hospital, I think, as well. But anyways, the main thing we're going to watch is I want to try to. I hope you see again just how close. If Kopacka did live at the Pimlico Apartments, and there's a famous footage. I don't know if you've seen it. I showed where there's an image that looks like it's Brent Kopacka literally at this crime scene, that is walking by the crime scene and the crime scene tape, looking at the officers that night, which again puts Kopacka in this part of town, the opposite side of town where he shot and killed. If that was really him on camera, he's seen right here by the neighborhood that he says he lives. So again, these are all receipts to. I think these 2 guys lived right next to each other.
Yeah, that's the birdseed camera.
Oh, there you go. So that's the Pimlico. This is where the accident was, roughly around here, I believe. Is that
Right.
the
So
Pimlico?
that's the.
That's the
I
Pimlico.
think
That's
it
the bus
is.
stop right there.
No, I think it is. I think that is where. That.
So Kopacka was seen right there to the left in an image. We believe it's Kopacka that was seen that night of the accident, standing right there, right about where I got it. And right across from it, you can walk across grass to Kohberger's apartment. That's how close they are. Now, to get there on car, you have to drive up a little bit and turn into the parking lot. So it looks deceptive on camera, on street view, but it's literally just a walk across some grass. You could throw a rock at each other's place.
Kopacka actually lived? Is that right?
Yeah, this is where Kopacka actually, I think, lived, according to the. Now we got a car on our ass, so I need to move it a little bit faster.
Yeah.
This is where the kids got run over. 2 people were hit.
Turn right. So it's right over here.
Yeah,
Right.
and as you guys know, I'm pretty vulgar, so I'm sure I'm going to drop an F-bomb.
Oh, it's one of the reasons that drew me to your channel.
They both came from Pennsylvania, and if I'm right about that, they literally were across the street from each other. So now we're pulling into Kohberger's apartments. This is Steptoe Apartments.
Steptoe Apartments.
This is even more convincing looking at it, because on the map
super
it makes
close.
You walk across the street.
Yeah,
You walk
guys,
across the street.
That is very close.
Steptoe Apartments
It's
where we are now.
it's very-
is literally like almost across the street from the
It would take-
Pimlico Apartments.
Yeah, if
You don't
Kopacka
hear
was staying
anything
at
about
Pimlico,
this.
he
You don't-
literally could Yeah.
No, definitely through the media, you don't hear anything about this.
Yeah, and it's I mean, I feel like it's just one of the overlooked things is just how close everybody was together, and how much of a coincidence it would be that the major players in these stories live where they live and are on top of each other in their houses. It's just bizarre.
With Kohberger and drive from here. They could
So we're going to turn here and face
This
right
looks
into
like a very typical
Kohberger's
college
unit.
off-campus housing.
Just a little bit
Where
here.
they found zero DNA in
That's
his
the building that
apartment.
We all saw.
Right.
Like, guys, as we get closer, you'll see.
Yes.
maybe.
So there it is, right in front of us. That's kind of
We'll come
dark,
by any day
obviously,
and do
with
all
the
this
shitty
stuff.
lighting in this area.
See, yeah, man. I mean,
That unit is Kohberger's unit. And yeah, I mean, from a legal standpoint, let's take a minute to talk about that. There was no transfer. There was no victim's DNA in the house. They searched for dog hair. It came out in the media. Hey, they found dog hair in Kohberger's apartment, and they were certain it was going to be Murphy. Didn't come out to be Murphy's dog hair. Nothing. There's no cross contamination other than the single source piece of DNA in the knife sheath that they're saying was in there. As someone pointed out, if it was close combat, certainly there would have been fibers of the clothing that Kohberger was wearing that should have transferred to the victims. There should have been a lot of other cross transfer, but you don't see any of it. No blood outside the crime scene, out to the car, back out into the car. Like, I don't even know how a person does that in the time that they say it happened. But
yeah, Sam and I wouldn't say we wouldn't get, like, if you actually tried to recreate that with like the body weight of the victims and trying to fight them off and go up, and then you would have to completely change clothes before you get back in your car and go. But the fact that there was not a single piece it makes it a big question mark for me, because
Yeah.
you're right. There would have been transfer fibers, there would have been hair, there would have been something. I don't know how you would come that close to 4 people with that many stab wounds and that much body fluids being, sprayed. I truly don't know how you come out of there without a single piece of DNA.
Yeah.
Well,
And I
and
think
how do you not have a reasonable doubt? That's the thing Kristen and I talk about a lot is it's like if you've decided that BK has done it and then there's like a bucket of evidence and like you can take 2 little things out and say, yeah, he's done it. Okay, but now you're concluding that he's done it and there's not a lot to support that. I think if you took all of the evidence, all of the interviews, and you stuck someone in a room by themselves with all of the evidence and you thought that they were going to look at it all and walk out and go, it was Brian. I think no one could do that. It's like it was totally reverse engineered. And I think the more that comes out, the more obvious that becomes. It's the lack of evidence is important too. Like you can't just feel well, it's not that big of a deal that we didn't find anything else in his house. Like, yeah, it is. That's actually a huge deal. That's a giant deal. Especially when the criminal standard is reasonable doubt. I have a reasonable doubt if that's all you have. And we have all these other, epic magical coincidences that are just happening in line. I don't think you can really get anyone that would go through all of it and walk out of a room and say, yep, it was Brian. And without knowing it before.
And the people that do, especially so strong in their convictions and their comments, I always challenge them to actually download a document, to listen to a couple people that may be not completely on point with what you believe, but you have to be able to objectively look at the information. In my opinion, the fact that there was that single piece of touch DNA is the fact that there was no evidence, no DNA anywhere in his car, his apartment, in his Pennsylvania, no victim's DNA. Those are equally as important to me.
Yes, right.
You have the fact that there was not another single piece of the victim's DNA anywhere. That is just important to me when I'm looking at the analysis, is the one piece of touch DNA that was through transfer. Like, those are very, very close to me.
Yeah. And with all of the with all of the coincidences, and I'll call them, and lining them all up in conjunction with one another, how can you possibly say that it's not reasonable to assume that maybe there's another reason why that touch DNA got into that house? Like maybe it was that, right? Like maybe it was Brian, but you're telling me that there's not a reasonable doubt that it could have been all these other potential coincidences, that it's not reasonable to assume that there's another way that DNA got in there. Like, it's not magic. There's a lot of other ways that touch DNA could get into a house. And some of those possibilities include, by the way, someone never having to step foot in that house.
Yeah. And it's funny because I should have asked you guys before we got started how much time you have, because I can freaking talk to you all day long, because I got so many things. Because you're right. It's not just the single source touch DNA. It's the explanation how there wasn't more. That's significant. Why the hell isn't there a hell of a lot more than one single source piece of DNA that is so small you can't see it with the human eye? That is a major red flag. And on top of that, it's super weird, and we don't have time probably to talk about it all, but it's like a higher standard to bring in an alternative suspect than it was to charge Brian in the first place. Like, literally, they have to prove more that an alternative suspect. And yet I can tell you the alternative suspects have better motives than some incel who can't get laid and has to go kill 4 people. That's an asinine motive.
No, you're right. Anne had to work. Not only did the judge deny them the ability to bring up the alternate suspects as a theory, she wasn't even letting them bring up evidence about an alternative suspect to impeach, to lessen their credibility. And it was something like, well, I better know about it if this is going to be brought up whatsoever. So it was like, okay, but I understand that you want to make sure that nobody is going to be dragged through the mud, that there is no evidence supporting that they were a willing participant in this act. But to not allow it to poke holes in someone's testimony or to impeach them is wild to me, that he was not entertaining that whatsoever. And
I personally believe that I could have told, and I'm not a lawyer, I think I could have told enough alternative stories to you and to a jury that you'd have reasonable doubt. Because I could give you people with way better motives that also had opportunity. And it makes more sense than some guy who moves across the country and throws away his entire career in a PhD candidate of criminology to go kill somebody in a whim. Like my narratives will make more sense than that, in my opinion. But
and you know, that should be your right to be able to pursue that as your legal theory, as a right to have a fair trial, is to put on that type of information. It's paramount, because you're either saying you didn't do it, or you're saying not only did I not do it, but someone else did, and here's why you should look the other way. And I think it's really important to be able to do all that. And I think, you know, without, I feel like I say it every time I get on here, but when you're losing the ability to do something like an alternative suspect, why doesn't that increase the likelihood that somebody that didn't do this may fold and take a plea? Because you know, at some point you're not getting a fair trial, or you don't feel you're getting a fair trial. Maybe that's not why he did it, but it's just, it's not that unreasonable to assume. And yeah, of course we care who actually did it, but that's not the legal standard. The legal standard is reasonable doubt. And the prosecution has the burden to prove that he is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And that just seems difficult, if not impossible, based on what we have.
Yeah.
And I think by Hippler denying their last motion with respect to the alternative suspects, I really think that was a big transition in the case from my client is going to be exonerated. He didn't do this. We are going to prove it. And her very gung-ho from the whole time, you know, him starting with, am I the only one that was arrested in this case? Or this is a big misunderstanding. We should grab coffee. And then they held that position all the way through until that last motion was denied with respect to Anne's ability to bring this evidence in front of the jury. And I think that that was a huge turn in the case. But what people don't realize, and we talked about this on, I think it was someone else's show, is that he doesn't have to prove that someone else did it. He just has, the defense has to prove that there is a possibility beyond a reasonable doubt that somebody else was involved in one of the unalivings or any of this process. That's all they have to prove.
Right.
And so many people do not understand that. I don't even think a lot of people really truly understand what beyond a reasonable doubt means, which is
right. Yeah. And the burden of proof was on the state. It's not Brian Kohberger's job to prove that he didn't do it. It's their job to prove that he did. And they literally said, we can't place him in the house. We don't know how he picked the house. We don't know how he picked the victims. All we can do is place him near the house. And I was dumbfounded. Like, how are you pleading guilty when they literally told you they can't prove you were there? They have the burden of proof. And you said it right. Bill Thompson, the prosecutor, literally said, when Ann Taylor realized that she wasn't going to be allowed to present alternative suspects, that's when they came forward with the plea. She was screwed at that point. Not even allowed to talk about alternatives.
She knew it too. I think there was probably a very hard couple conversations. Like, we're never going to get anywhere in this courtroom. You know, obviously the death penalty is still on the table. I think there were some pretty hard conversations of, I say this like Sam says all the time too, is the devil you know is a lot better than the devil you don't know. And he was rolling the dice with respect to a judge that clearly was not being super biased, or sorry, that was not being super objective. They had already taken their right to present that alternate suspect theory away. They weren't even going to allow them to bring it up to poke holes in other people's testimony that were on their witness list. And I think she probably told, you know, Brian, hey, we need to talk about this because we need to set this up, you know, moving forward. But Lee, I have a question for you. When Sam and I watched I think it was the day that the plea deal was accepted, the change of the plea.
Yeah.
We're all waiting, right? We're all waiting. What is the smoking gun? This was before Bill Thompson laid out exactly what they had, right?
Yeah.
And Sam, what do you think they have? They got to have something. They have to have something that's we don't know about, that's never been leaked, that's going to come out and be like, whoa. Yeah. And then he comes out and he's doing his little speech of their most persuasive evidence. And I'm sitting there and we're both looking at each other like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, it was so minimal. And it was based on pings and touch DNA and speculations. They didn't have a single hard piece that was like, see, we told everyone he did it. We told you we were going to prove it. And here it is.
I tell you what, I kid you not. I was in the courtroom. I was in the courtroom and I was looking around at people like, are you kidding me? That's their case. We came here to hear that. And that was their case. They have nothing. And I almost wanted to stand up and like, don't take the deal. Like, are you kidding me?
Oh,
Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's your case. We have nothing. We can't prove he was there. We don't know how he did it. We don't know why he did it. And we can't put him in the house. And thank you.
When he said we can't put him in the house, I literally spit out my drink because I was like, they have to have stuff that we don't. It's what me and Sam kept saying.
Right.
They have to have facts we don't know. This cannot be the baseline that this guy is gonna go down on. And
I came there with the same feeling. I was just like you. I went there going, okay. I said at the end of the day, if he did it, he did it. And I'm okay with that. I just want to know. I just want to know what happened. So I was waiting for them to, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I'm going to hear something finally be, oh shit. If I had known that all along, I wouldn't have questioned. And they never came. I was like, that's it. That was your entire case. Like there has to be more.
I finished that hearing going, I'm actually more convinced that he didn't do this. Or at a minimum, as Sam says, there is so much reasonable doubt here. It is wild.
Yeah. I don't know what that,
Yeah,
we're never going to get through these videos.
God, it was wild.
It was wild. I feel the same way. And I think it's priceless. So you guys need to tell me, because the way we're talking, we're never going to get through these videos. I do have a 15-minute daylight video. Do you want to continue on the nighttime video? Do you have time?
Whatever you want to do. We blocked off 2 hours. So whatever you want to do.
Okay, let's roll this because I'll keep that in mind so I can watch our time. Let's get some more footage.
Wasn't he murdered on his driveway following like a domestic dispute with his wife, and then he was shot by the PD, right?
So the official story on Kopacka was he had roommates and he somehow had some kind of event and started to yell crazy shit and told his roommates, get the hell out of the apartment. I'm going to kill you all. And they called 911 and said, look, our roommate just went nuts. There's no woman involved in this. I think
the story that I watched or read was that it was his girlfriend and it was domestic violence and he had a knife and said he was going to kill her or something.
No, not Kopacka. I don't believe that's the story. I think he had roommates. They said he was threatening to kill his roommates. They called 911 and there was a standoff for hours with Kopacka. The roommates were out of the apartment. It was just Kopacka and the officers. And eventually there was, they said that he started to shoot at officers from the apartment and then they shot and killed him, but SWAT team shot and killed him. So I'm not sure where the rumor came in. I did hear at one point, to your credit, I did hear that he supposedly had a knife and that maybe somebody was serving a search warrant for a knife at Kopacka's place. I don't know where that rumor started, but the actual event,
the telephone, it goes wild. So whenever we get information like that, that's the first thing we always do is, hey, let's get it. Let's both do our independent kind of thought process. But yeah, I don't know. I probably honestly just Googled it at the time, who is Brent Kopacka, and then got whatever's available still left on the internet. But whatever I had read said that it was a domestic dispute that the authorities had already been to that residence before, and it was already an issue. And he had a knife, and he wouldn't put down the knife, and he was doing something with his hand with the knife that gave the law enforcement the green light to go. Interesting.
Yeah, that's a completely different narrative than what I've researched. That's very interesting.
I'm 99% wrong.
Well, and who knows? The narrative changes over time when they scrub articles from shit. So I'm not doubting that story wasn't out there in the wind. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you bad research or anything like that. I just think that story could have been out there in the wind. But
it was probably very bad research.
All right, let's continue on with this.
Many times were people filming in front of these buildings. I think he was in that building right there.
I shit you not. Listen, people, listen. In my theory that Kohberger and Kopacka knew each other, I'm literally...
So I'll fast forward a little bit on here, but Kohberger's right beside us. Kopacka is literally, it's the end of this parking lot across some grass and you're at the Pimlico Apartments. It's right across the street. So again, these guys lived extremely, extremely close to each other.
Really looking across the street.
I think we can skip forward a little bit because a lot of this isn't super. Now this is pulling in. Yeah. So there wasn't a lot more to talk about there. This is pulling on to the King Road residence. And this is the most important part of this nighttime footage, right? So this is Taylor Avenue. When you take a right, you're going to immediately have Linda Lane right to your left. A little bit further on, you're going to have the Banfield on your right-hand side and the White's apartments on your left-hand side. And then you'll hit King Road and you can turn left onto King. So you can turn left on a Linda or King. So we're going to drive through that neighborhood here. And I'm going to just let you guys call out anything you want to talk about. But
was it creepy driving through there?
Yes, it was. it was surreal. It was so weird researching a case for so long, and then to see all the places in person. It just you kind of have this weird sense of foreboding when you're there. But then seeing how tight it was, Joe and I were just like stunned, like, oh my God, this place is so much smaller and so much more compact. And as I point out many, many times, look at the number of cars that you'll see in here. There are 1 million cars in this neighborhood. This is the dumbest place to go commit a random murder. I don't. That's why I'm thinking that house was targeted. And yeah, sure, the prosecution even says, sure, it was targeted. He was going after Maddie because he was obsessed about her or whatever. But the point being is that I'm more convinced than anything, this wasn't just a random, I'm just going to pick a place, because you would not pick this place to do it.
Thing over the house.
I'm neglecting the cat. I know, guys.
It was a super quiet night.
I'm trying to
yes.
Let you guys see stuff.
Lots
So
of
Linda
foot
Land's
traffic.
immediate left.
All right, so this
I was
is
neglecting you guys in the chat. I apologize.
This place does not look like.
Trying to prevent.
So the band field's right there on the left. There's fire hydrant there. The band field, and Sigma
All right,
Chi is
this
off
is
on
the
the
big
to the
field.
right, to the right.
And that's where the videos of the kids hiding in the
Yeah.
bushes or the college
Yep.
students, guys.
Yeah, and let me tell you that is so tight. That band field right there, you got the street, and then you got the parking lot for the whites, and there's a walkway between the whites right into the King Road residence. I mean, you could run just a few feet and you're there. Like, everything is super, super tight. This whole neighborhood is packed together, and there's a walkway from this field across the street between the whites and right into King Road's residence where the house is at.
Okay, and this is where the undercover cop was too, right?
Yes. Yep.
Right?
And the kids
Yeah.
were stopped.
But it
This
does
is
look
the
so
van
much
field,
bigger
right
when
here.
you're watching it on those videos. It doesn't look like it's just across the street. It looks like they're
Yeah.
way far apart.
There was parts of me that thought, oh, well, that's a whole neighborhood away. Like, that's not probably related, but they're right on top of it. And it still might not be related, but it's right on top of each other.
Yeah.
That is it, right there. And that is Sigma Chi right there, I believe. Yep, that's Sigma Chi, guys, right there.
Oh wow.
So here we are. We got to be low.
There's clothes in the road right there. We talked about they found panties in the road. Apparently, it's not uncommon to find college students' clothes right in the middle of the street, because there's an example
Didn't
right there.
that happen
Now,
in the Idaho case too?
yes.
One of the the body cam footage of the guy going door to door. He said, "Well, I'm
Yeah.
not sure how weird it is, but I did find some women's clothes and panties in the middle of the street."
Right. And what bothered me so much, what bothered me so much is the officer's response. Okay, thanks. And they leave. Like,
No
no
follow-up
follow up.
questions.
How is there not a follow up? Like, you find panties outside of a house with a quadruple murder scene and 3 of them are female victims, and you don't go, hey, because he even said, I thought it was weird that I saw it. It wasn't like you said, hey, it's a random day in college town. There's panties in the street every day. It wasn't that. It was like, hey, I thought it was a little weird. There's panties in the street. He's, okay, thanks. Have a nice day. I'm like, what the hell's going on in this town? Like, anyways. All right.
Key now that we're in the neighborhood, but his bird feeder cam.
Sorry for the shaky camera work. We had some issues. Now, this is super bizarre. I want to point this out to people because I don't really make a comment on this anywhere else. We're turning onto Queen Road. So we were on King going straight, and now we're turning left onto Queen. The house that you're looking at is 1112 King Road residence, but you're literally turning onto Queen Road. Also, just behind it, immediately behind it, is 1122 King Road, but you're on Queen Road, which is super weird because King's the road that we were driving straight on. So the house numbers are all freaking weird in this whole area. So it just throws a lot of confusion into this whole thing. And you'll see there's a party going on right now at this time of night. They're on that deck of 1112. There's kids out there drinking and partying right next to the house that's been torn down. So I'll roll some footage here.
Well, you can see a lot of foot traffic and a lot of
there's
people out, and I don't even think you could make a 3-point turn in that road.
Yeah. Look how tight it is.
Conspicuous to draw attention.
I
So
really
right
can't
there-
believe the amount of cars.
Yes.
There's so many cars, a lot of white cars, by the way, but there's so many cars.
That's a good point, Sam.
I almost did that. Let's count how many white-looking Elantra type cars there are in this neighborhood. A lot.
Yeah.
There was something like 14,000 white Elantras in the area, and that's not another. I think like this actual number, like something like 14,000. That's a lot of.
So these are the apartments
Tenant
we've
parking
all
lot.
seen.
Oh my gosh, look how
a
tight that
million
is.
times.
Yeah.
Is
And
that
that's the Queen Road apartments, right? Our Queen apartments right beside us on the left, and the King Road residence right on the right.
This is where the killers.
Well, we're-
right there is down where the house
Right,
is at.
right there, guys. I apologize. Obviously, it's dark.
All right,
but
we're
right
at the
down.
back side of the property.
We're on the back side of 1122 King Road, right here. This is the infamous little parking area.
Yeah, we're supposed to.
And by
So
the
is
way,
that behind their house?
Yes, right behind their house. So they're immediately on my right. Now, what's interesting is if some of the books talk about or details talk about a house that was right behind them. So right in front of me where you can't see because it's so pitch black is a 2-story house that overlooks the King Road residence as well. They have a dog, by the way, in the neighborhood. There's dogs all over the place. So people who hear a dog barking, fucking dogs are all over the neighborhood, pardon my French. So you don't know.
No, I do think that's funny though, that everyone is claiming every bark is Murphy.
Yes. And this is why I say I don't like isolated audios and whatever. Here you hear Murphy barking. No, you hear a dog barking, and there's half a dozen. When I do the daytime footage, I get barked at by 2 dogs on the walk, and they're not Murphy. So anyways, for what it's worth, there was a house that supposedly overlooks the girls. They apparently had a beef with the girls. They've had run-ins with them. They had made noise complaints. They had bitched at them. So again, alternative potential suspect, somebody who had a beef and didn't like the girls. All of that could have been presented if it had gone to trial.
Did they have any ring camera footage from their house?
No, I don't. Never seen any. That doesn't mean they don't have one. But I've never seen any.
That would be pretty darn close.
I can't stress to you enough how bad DA's camera is. It's so bad. Like in modern times,
that would be something Sam would say to me.
I would like, you sound like me yelling at Kristen.
On it that would sort of brighten the picture.
He's talking about how I don't have a modern camera. It's a Samsung S23 Plus. It's a modern camera.
They didn't have cameras in 1987.
Yeah, so right down there would have been the look of the house, but it's now the house is.
So right there,
blocked off now. I know there's nothing there, but do they have it like blocked off or?
No. So that's wide open. That slope leads right down into where the house was torn down. It's completely leveled. It's just an empty lot. There's no ropes, no nothing. You can walk right onto the property. The only thing, there is a chain kind of over the front entrance that we drove by a minute ago, but on the backside, there's nothing blocking you. And it's just and you'll see it really clearly on the daytime footage if we get to it. You have to get to it. But it's very, very steep and full of leaves this time of year. So you would slip on your ass. It was also potentially snowy. So walking this path down into the house would have been a little treacherous, just for an FYI.
Oh, I see the bird feeder cam might not be doing a good job. Hold on, we'll use this. This is probably good in low light, right?
Fast forward a little bit. Okay, so here we're coming out of that little parking lot, and immediately to the right is the Queen Apartments. They're right on top of it, and there's a walkway. I'm going to show it very, very clearly. A pair of stairway that comes right down between the 2 Queen Apartments, right into the apartments, or the 1122 King Road residence. It's like super close. The screen's going to go dark for a minute, but you'll get the point here in a second.
There's the apartments right there that are right next to the house.
Is that the one that?
Right, and here to our left. You can't really see it.
He's trying to look at the house, that lot that's empty, and it's.
Apologize for your camera on your phone.
I apologize for my fucking camera.
And who do we know lived at the Queen Apartments?
I'm trying to remember. I knew you were going to ask me that. I'm trying to remember.
I can't off the top of my head recall, but I figured you might. But was there any of the big players?
There's speculation that whoever it was had walked right from the Queen Apartments right into the scene, and that could have happened. And in fact, the staircase leads to the back of the house, where supposedly the killer entered the back of the house. It literally empties out right into the back of the house. But I don't remember now, because I remember where Showalter lived. Did Showalter live in Queen? I don't remember. See, that's what I should know that. I should know that.
I thought he lived. I didn't think he lived that close.
Maybe he didn't live that close. Yeah.
Get 2 cameras in place because DA's bird.
Let's be quiet.
Bird feeder cam.
That's where the house was, right?
So now we're back on Queen Road, and immediately to the left, right there is 1122, which you're not going to see so great in the daytime footage. You'll see it clear as day. We'll also show you a memorial that's right there where people lay stuff for the kids, and then we're going to drive right past 1112 King Road residence. That's the house that has the footage seeing the launcher in that green house there. A lot as the cars coming and going from the neighborhood.
See much with this camera.
Okay, and what are any of these houses on the Dateline video where they were trying to say he was feet? Okay, so point those out to us.
Yeah, so that was you saw that green house right there.
That was the one that he was.
Yeah, you saw his car, his headlights come in and go towards the 112 and then speed off away. That house was featured a lot in the Dateline, the most recent Dateline
that's
episode.
Good for reference.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say this to everybody because people brought this up earlier.
And now we're heading back towards Banfield.
Because I've seen countless
Sigma Chi's in the dark right behind it.
Hold on.
Look how
guys,
there's not a lot of lighting. It's crazy.
Right. Super dark. Yeah.
Especially for all these college students, like it's screaming liability and problems to me. That's just being an attorney.
Yeah. And so I'm going to fast forward a little bit just to kind of save us some time. You just watch off to the right-hand side, the number of cars that we pass. And it's also the white apartments, the whites, as they call it, is right up in here to the right behind or beside all these cars. But kind of look at how many cars there and stuff there are in this area. And the parking lot up at the whites is full of cars as well. This is just what's on the street.
And people everywhere here. And
DA, guys, just so you guys know, DA is at the band field right now.
But
That's it right there, guys.
Here's what's surreal to me. Why the fuck would you pick this for your murder scene? If you're gonna randomly pick a house, are you gonna pick a place where there's 1 million cars, 1 million houses, everything? I mean, this is packed tight. This is one of the tightest areas in the entire campus. Every house here is touching each other, right next to each other, and there's cars everywhere. There's partying everywhere. We saw people.
And as Sam was saying, I think it was, look at, there's a lot of white cars. There's a white car right there.
6 white cars in a row.
Yeah. House wasn't just a random actor. That house was targeted.
And those are just the ones we can see.
Right. So I think that's mostly the drive for the King Road and the nighttime. I can't wait to show you the daytime stuff because I think you're going to enjoy it even more. So let me go ahead and add that to stage. And I got a little pre-roll of my logo here. And then I'll turn the sound on.
And I loved listening to you when I think you were standing in line for, it was one of the hearings that I was listening to where you were telling him that you were with YouTube or talking to someone that was behind you and you had to get up at like 2 a.m. to go stand in line. I remember I was on my way to court one morning and I was listening to that and I was laughing.
I've had some moments that are kind of funny on camera. I've done some things.
Yeah, we're coming at this from a completely different angle.
So this is the same view coming towards Taylor Avenue that we just saw at night, but now it's in the daytime.
We're going to turn on Taylor. When I turn on Taylor, immediately to my left will be Linda Lane, the famous Linda Lane. If we continued straight, we're going to hit King Road. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. We're on Blake Avenue. I'm going to turn right onto Taylor. I'm going to take an immediate left on Linda Lane, and it's the famous Linda Lane.
I'm so excited to show this for the first time.
We're going to turn on Linda Lane here. And we're going to wait for this car. This guy behind me does not want to wait.
So King Road's up a ways and another left up there. We're going to turn on Linda.
All right.
Camera looks
great. This
Yeah.
looks so long on camera. It's a little.
Is this the same camera?
Road. On camera,
So,
it looks like it's this big.
Joe, yeah, the same camera, yes. That's done the main footage. Joe was complaining about my cell phone that he was holding out the window. We were recording with, so he was really complaining about my cell phone.
Okay, well then there you go. Because this camera's good.
Driveway.
Yeah.
That took a while for cars to get down.
I think all the answers to this case are Linda Lane.
No length to this at all. There's the famous dumpster. People talk about the Linda Lane dumpster.
Oh, the Linda Lane dumpster.
Where people think that they were dumped into the dumpster. If you come
There's
up
a steep incline here.
We're going to literally be looking at the Queen Road apartments right there. So we've got Linda Lane apartments right here. Everybody has seen these things. There's been camera footage right off to the left immediately from me where you see people and you hear all kinds
Now
of.
what you're going to see in a minute is right off to the right-hand side is a footpath that goes. There's a fence you see on the right-hand side. There's a little footpath that goes down, and you can walk between the 2 Queen apartments and right into the King Road residence where the murders happen. So there's a little retaining. I'm going to show it all. I'll just show it all. I'll just show it all.
Isolated audios, and it's so tight here that I got to fucking flip around. So right in front of us are apartments that touch the residence where the murders were at. It literally touches it, so it's super tight here. Like I said, so tight that I got to flip around and do a little.
And I got to do a 3-point stance or 3-point turn here because it's just too tight to turn. To turn around.
So this is it.
She thinks we're getting out because we're slowing down.
But that's a super easy road to get in and out of.
This looks so deceptive on the camera.
Yes.
Rhonda and I will walk this as well in a minute. We're going to turn again left on Taylor. You'll see frat houses and stuff across the way. You'll see the famous Sigma Chi. The band field is off to the right of us, right there. Super, super close. Where individuals.
There's the whites. You can see the apartments there that are white to the side. That's the whites.
This is
apartments.
super close. Super close to the murder scene. So anybody who thinks that this was a long ways away and unrelated, it may be unrelated, yes, but it's not far away at all. Turning onto King Road Avenue, or King Road. And you're going to immediately turn into Queen Road. We're going to look right at 1112, which is the house that caught the Hyundai Elantra a bunch of times. This greenhouse off to my right.
So again, this off to the right-hand side is that greenhouse. That's the greenhouse you see a lot in the footage that when the Elantra is coming and going from Queen. So he'd be turning onto the white Elantra, would be turning onto the Queen Road, and you'd see that greenhouse in the distance behind it as it's turning, and it's caught by that 112.
None of these neighbors that they saw or heard any of this.
That's impossible for me.
That's right. When you see it so close together, it's like.
Do you think it's even possible that they even came close to talking to the amount of residents that were there that night?
Yeah, I don't think they properly canvassed the area. I don't think, I feel, I say it all the time, kind of tongue in cheek, but that you don't ask questions you already know the answers to. I just feel like they already kind of knew something that happened and they didn't ask a lot of the questions that you should have asked. That's my gut.
Especially though with such a college town. I mean, I wasn't in a sorority, but Kristen and I both played soccer. And I mean, when you're living in like a 2-bedroom apartment and there's 4 of you, like there's so many potential people that could have heard this, even if it's very dark out.
And think about the rumors that are out there about gunshots. If they were shot in the house, there would have been, as we have a law enforcement advisor or a consultant on the show, right? And he says there would have been 1 million calls to 911 if they had been shot in the house.
All of these people around that would have heard it.
Yeah, everybody would have heard the gunshots.
No doubt.
And that's what Kaylee's mom had initially reported that she had heard from.
Right, like she said
that Kaylee had been shot.
That stunned me when I first heard that. We got the call that everybody had been shot, and I'm like, "What? A shot? Where did that come from?"
Yeah, I went back and I watched somebody's very early video. I can't remember who it was, but they were like, I think it was at the press release. They said they had cleared 90 people within like 24 hours of the murders or something like that. And I was like, okay, does clearing someone basically just ask for their name and their phone number and hey, you didn't do it, right? Because there's
even Steve Gonzalez complained that they ruled people out too quickly in this case.
Well, that's what Sam and I think is one of the biggest problems of this case is everyone should have been considered a suspect until proven otherwise. It should have come from that mindset.
Right. And I've been critical about how they don't separate all the kids. They come out on the murder scene and you don't separate everybody and take independent statements from them to make sure their statements match. You let them mingle and tell it they're each like the whole thing was a piss. And some people chalk it up. Well, it's a small town. They don't know how to handle big murder scenes or whatever. But like it's 101. You separate everyone and you treat them as if they're a potential suspect. And
but isn't that also the point? You guys don't know what you're doing. So I'm doubtful that you did the right thing.
Right.
Or that you collected the right anything. Like,
right.
Great. You guys are in over your head. Clearly.
Right. And did you just make the evidence fit because you needed to get somebody?
Right.
Yeah. And did you see that video when they went after the body cams of when they first got to the enforcement and they brought them back to the police station? And there's like 15 of them, sitting in the waiting room, all one after another. And then they walk up the stairs, single filed, one after another. They weren't separated from what we can tell from anything in that video. And how long you sitting there for 3-4 hours? Your story changes.
And they were kept in the same hotel room together overnight to continue.
Now I didn't know that they were all placed in the same hotel. That was pretty wild.
Yeah.
Years ago, I'm not sure that car ever moves. Anyways, this is the house location immediately to the right where the house was. It's been torn down.
So that's where the lot is, where the house has been torn down. And so you can see there's a chain across there, so you can't drive into it, but you could walk into it easily.
So that's where all behind the house, the alleged blood coming out of the house and the foundation. It was from that side right there.
Yep. And so look at how close the Queen apartments are. And there's a walkway, like I said, that dumps right into that lot. You're going to see it really well here in a minute.
Where the killer allegedly went and parked. Molly McMichaels also said when she was delivering the food, she came up here behind the house. It told her to walk down behind the slope into the back of the house, which we will get some footage on the ground with that.
This is where they think they saw 100 feet, right?
I always say.
Now, what was that? 100 shape and do what?
I think they said that his car was there at some point, either the early morning.
I think they said he was parked out front of the house. So when we go by the front, I think he was parked in the front parking lot, I think.
That the killer would have supposedly parked to be looking right in the back.
So that again is looking right down into the slope going into the house that's been torn down.
Turned the lights off. It would have been a good location, and I'll grant that it is a good location to see when people are going to bed in the house. Covered by trees, so your approach to the house will be covered.
Are you going to park here?
No, we're going to go park somewhere else and walk around, I think. You want to walk from here?
Why not?
And I think they said one of
my wife's fucking got balls of
areas
fucking steel.
You could see into Maddie's, like you could see into her window and watch her.
Sure.
Like it was so close you could see her putting on her mascara.
For
right,
sure.
we're just
Yeah,
gonna park-
and
fuck it.
we'll park here.
Fuck it,
You'll
we'll do
see
it live.
Wait,
Rhonda's gonna fucking have me park right behind the fucking murder scene and
I
fucking
mean, we're
walk.
right here.
We're
There I
right-
am,
I was gonna
dropping
be in the
F-bombs
street,
like they're
fucking-
going out of style.
You're not- you're not in the street for shit.
Experience when you're there.
Right?
I
Yeah,
love it.
that's what my wife's like, park right here. And I'm like, are you kidding? She's like, park right here. I'm like, oh, okay.
We're gonna do it. We're
Yeah, so right here, you literally, if you stand in front of my car, you could look. I mean, I think even from the car, you could have seen. It's hard because, of course, the house is gone. But I think it would have been high enough that you could have seen lights on the top floor. So that was part of the argument, right? Is the killer sat behind here, waited for the lights to go off, so knew that they were going to bed for the night, and then came into the house. And yeah, you could do that from this vantage point.
We've seen the lot where the house has been torn down, so let's get out and get strapped up and walk the dogs.
Are we walking the dogs?
We're not gonna walk the dogs.
Okay. I didn't.
That
I don't know what
Murphy?
the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah, what's that? I got two
Murphy?
chihuahuas. We got two chihuahuas. My theory was that we'd walk the dogs and it would be just like an old couple walking their dogs and nobody would think the twice of it. But then I
go.
decided that the dogs are going to be too much of a hassle and tried to record, so I left the dogs in the car. I do
All right,
block
so
out
there's
a
a
second
house
of video because I
right
don't want to
here
show
that
my
overlooks
license
the
plate.
girl's
So when it
house
goes dark,
that
that's what I'm
went
doing.
to. They've got a dog out here.
So there's that
Girls
house I was
keep
telling you about at night that I said you can see a house. That house overlooks those girls' apartments. It's kind of angled to aim right at. This person could look in their windows, and there's a dog here that's running around. You can't see it very well, but there's a dog right there.
I'll try
That's
to
a
be
big
kind
dog,
of
and he
quiet, but
barks.
there's a dog out here. For those who are thinking that Murphy is the only dog in the neighborhood, there's a dog right there that could have been barking, especially if somebody was approaching the house. Now, whether that's the same dog that was here 3 years ago, we don't know. We're also going to look right here at the back of the property. Huh?
Left your keys at the hotel.
Did I really? You think so? So this slope right here is the slope down into the house. It's easy to walk down from here, although you would slip on your ass.
So my point here is, I don't know if you can see it, but that's pretty steep and it's covered with autumn leaves. So this is the exact same time of year. That would be slippery for anybody to walk on because you'd slip on those leaves pretty easy. And then of course there was actually snow supposed to be on the ground as well. So this would be a little bit of a treacherous walk. And at night, not saying that this makes the story unbelievable, but I'm just saying it's not an super easy walk.
And
And what
it
is
was
the
supposed to be
evidence
winter
that
with
is out there
snow.
that supports this?
Say
I don't
what?
know that what evidence is out there? I don't know that I've seen a lot of it that actually supports the
So,
person going up there and coming down the hill.
Yeah. So the official story is that Kohberger circled and eventually parked behind the house and then walked in. So again, the house is kind of like 3 floors, right? 3 stories. And the bottom floor is ground level on the front side of the house. But on the back side of the house, the bottom floor is the second level because it's kind of like under the earth, if you follow what I'm saying, right? So the killer allegedly came in through the sliding glass door on the second floor, which is coming down this slope right to the first entry would be the second floor because
Those
around
are
the
just
front
their
side of the house.
assumptions. Those are
Yeah,
their assumptions that they're trying to make the storyline, right?
Yes, and Dylan reported that she saw the killer walk right past her and then out the sliding glass door and exited the house in the same way that they came in.
Okay, so I know that she said that, but then my brain goes to the next point. Okay, and just because she went out that second floor, how do we know that she went back up to that lot?
Yeah. No, we don't know. And in fact, I think if you really analyze what Dylan said, I don't think she even saw him leave out the door. She just assumed that that's where he went. Yeah.
I agree with you on that. She's never actually
But there's no way to know.
She saw him leave out the
out the sliding door. So that's an assumption that she makes and everybody goes with, right? And then then they talk
story
about the
changes
footprints
with
that you
each
see
interview.
outside the back door and yeah. All right, we'll continue here.
No, she didn't. She supposedly walked down this way to get to the front of the house. But the killer.
When I'm
went
talking
down
about
this-
I'm talking about Molly. So Molly's story is that she was delivering DoorDash to the house. The address that it wouldn't take her to the front door. So Molly said that according to GPS, it took her to the back lot right here, and that Molly parked here, and it was basically suggesting that she walked down to the back side of the house to deliver DoorDash. So she got out of her car. This is Molly's story, Molly McMichaels, and she walked around the road that we're going to walk on and walked around to the front of the house to do the delivery. So that's her story. GPS took me to the back of the house. It wanted me to walk down into the back of the house, but I thought that was dumb, whatever. So I walked around the front of the house trying to find the front of the house.
That's what
so she does.
The killer went down
this
this and into the back of the house. So in front of us, this is the Queen. I think this is the Queen Road apartment.
I just blocked out my license plate.
Literally
there for a
on
second.
top of 1122 King Road.
My editing
residence.
skills need some work.
There's a little walkway that goes right to their side entrance.
very,
Stop
very
here for a second.
populated
I wanna
area.
This is just a
Yeah.
side
Yeah,
view
look at-
of the lot,
People.
looking down
Yeah.
at 111
Look how close
2
the houses are
King
together.
Road residence. I don't know the number of this other house that's right beside it. So,
So
the
they
gray
said they
house.
killed 90 people in 24 hours.
That's what they
Yeah.
said. They cleared 90 people within 24 hours of
Isn't that
the.
like 10 to 20 minutes a person?
That's kind
And
of that's
again,
what I was thinking
If
too.
you're working all night.
And that's
look
with
at
how
how
many
tight-
officers, working all night with how many officers you have doing it. And if you don't
Yeah.
have the same people being consistent, asking the same questions.
yeah,
I
they,
think
they must have done some bulk ruling out of people. Like everybody from this place is ruled out because whatever their reasoning was.
or
and
their
everybody from
friends.
this place
We're
is
going to
ruled
rule
out.
these people out.
Yeah. But again, all the tightness of this area, if people were
Look
fighting back,
how far apart, Lee, do you think those two houses right there are from each other? What, 12 feet?
yeah, it might be 20 feet, but I don't think it's 20 feet. I think it's more like 15 feet, maybe 12 feet. It's pretty tight. You'll see it pretty
There's
good.
no way you did not hear anything. There is no way.
If they
Even
were fighting back, their
even if you're
screen.
jamming, you can sleep through anything.
Yeah,
You would still
yeah.
hear.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
It
Well,
doesn't.
my problem too is that you don't have 90 people saying they didn't hear anything.
Yeah, right.
Like, where are
Right.
all those people? Like, no, we slept through the night. Nothing happened. Nothing to report. No sounds whatsoever. It was a lullaby. Like,
Yeah.
where is that?
Right.
Lee,
Right.
how many people would you estimate that just in these 4 or 5 houses in that video, in that shot right there, how many, or even just like the handful right here, how many people do you think were living right there?
Gosh, so the 1112, like I said, when we drove by, there was a party going on and there was, 15 people on the deck kind of thing. I don't know how many people live there, but I would say probably 6 or so people probably at least live in that
That's what I mean.
building
Look at that
alone.
greenhouse. I bet you there's at least 4 to 6 there.
Oh yeah, easily
If
6 in
not
the
more.
greenhouse behind it.
Yeah, if not
probably
more.
Probably
This house
more,
is
yeah.
probably at least 4. I mean,
Yeah.
do the math. There's what, 60 people within less distance than half a soccer field?
And don't forget, Queen Apartments is right beside us, and that's a whole bunch of people. So
Wow.
yeah,
Isn't that where
there,
Emily lived,
This
right?
taller is 111.
at Queen.
Yeah, is that where did Emily and Hunter live?
Gosh, I think you're right. But wow, like now I'm trying to
I'm
remember where they
fucking
were. They
wrong.
were. Yeah.
I can't remember
and then
either.
right beside it is a dark blue house. I don't know what the number
It's so
is.
funny. I've studied this case for so long, and like basic questions are just mind blanking me at the moment.
I just
Is it
remember when
that
they
one?
were
We don't
walking
talk about that
over
much.
on the body footage to the
Yes.
when the 911 call was made.
Yeah.
I think mostly because it didn't have a camera on it, but
Let's put it back on a different view where we're beside this.
Wild. There were
Let's
so
see.
many people that didn't hear anything.
now on the Queen Road,
And that's another set of apartments right
apartments
across
right
the
here.
street,
There's a
right that we're looking
walkway.
at. Another set of apartments.
right here,
Look at all these people.
where somebody can
Now,
come
look at
down
that
the
walkway.
stairs
Now
between
that-
these apartments. And
That's what I'm talking about. That walkway comes right down into the back of the house, which I find is significant because there's a million different angles that people could have came and ran from the house. And again, on the logic that I just don't think I don't buy one person did it. I think more people involved in this than one person myself. But
Well, that's why I was
Pretty living
asking
in-
that question, if what evidence there really is what proof we have that was the location they were going in and out of, because there could
Right.
have been multiple different entrances.
for sure.
these apartments could come through the apartments from Linda Lane, right down these stairs, and right into the house.
There's been 3
like
people
that.
coming from
So look at
different.
this. Right there, you can come
areas.
from Linda
Yeah.
Lane, right down that stairway between these 2 houses, and right into the apartment, or to where the girls were staying.
Another dumpster there. I don't know if that dumpster is always there. Lots of places there's dumpsters all over the place and garbage cans and shit.
And of course, this is the street where all the kids were out when the police were here putting on crime tape. This is the lot. I don't know if you can tell how tiny it is, but there was a 3-story house there.
How many square footage was the house? Wasn't it like less than
property in the
2,500?
Yeah, I'm sure it was. It's pretty small.
2,200 or something like that.
Yeah.
first place. Here's where most of the kids sat, on the sidewalk right here across from the scene.
The body cam.
This is the memorial.
Yeah, we do show a
Let's
little
take
bit
a
of this
look
memorial,
here.
which isn't terribly important, but
There's some fresh flowers.
Got some old stuff in here, some very weathered stuff, bag of chips and some candies left for some people,
These are brand new.
brand new flowers, probably from the few nights ago, or maybe last week. I don't know if it would be the same for last week. Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. Eternal souls, living forever is what that sign says. Some teddy bears, gnomes.
There's a tassel.
It's crazy that it's been 3
A
years.
graduation tassel from what year?
2025.
2025.
So that's from just now.
Yep.
All right. So
Wow.
I think this cuts a little bit of footage. We're going to walk down the street towards that green house, past the 1112, which is right there.
And
on
this
our
green house has
left.
been seen a million times with the car footage as the Elantra supposedly approaches and leaves the area. They got a lot of shoes hanging
down
on the
closer.
on the what do you call it? Power lines.
Look how many cars
People
are just
throw
right
their
here.
shoes up on top
Yeah.
of the power lines.
And these houses are just super, super close.
So again, this right here looks into the 1122 King lot where the house was torn down. All these houses touch it. And now we're heading straight ahead to Sigma Chi in the Banfield, which is, I mean, I could throw a football there. Probably my old ass probably couldn't throw a football there. An NFL quarterback could hit the football field from here. In the distance on the other side of the Banfield over there is Greek Row. You can see a lot of the Greek frats, sorority kind of houses. Sigma Chi right in front of us.
And just fast forwarding here on this walk, again, right on the other side of this retaining wall is the White's apartments. You can't see it very well, but that up there you see cars that are parked up in that area.
All right, so now we're on Linda Lane. Like we just walked very little short distance. We're gonna turn on Linda Lane here.
I don't get how this connects with the King Road though.
Footwise,
I
you
think.
can walk between the buildings.
So that we're gonna
So that's why you come up here and the road ends at Linda Lane and you have to flip around and go back to go to the King Road, but you can walk there. With just a few
And there
feet.
was allegations, that people that the car dropped some people off, and that other people walked from this area into the crime scene. So there was an indication that maybe somebody got dropped off, and people were staging at different places during that night, planning the attack. Like could have been multiple attackers that were planning the attack on the house from multiple
I did
angles.
see some footage of that too.
Yeah.
All right, Linda Lane Apartments. We're
This
climbing.
is the infamous Humvee, or this is where the
hill.
Hummer is, where we
I
hear
wouldn't
the
say steep hill. I
audio.
kept wanting to say steep.
And the
Right.
gun rack guy, I think.
Yeah, the
and
gun rack. We can see the black
yeah.
truck coming
hill. It's not
coming
that
up,
steep,
and the
it's a
car
little-
honks.
Yep,
And then, isn't this the same place where someone says, "I told her not to park here," or "I told him not to
Yeah.
park here"?
I think
Right?
so. Yeah.
This
Yeah,
is.
and so
I think this is where some bad stuff went down.
Yeah. So right here, you can see that blue truck to the right-hand side. That's a footpath right here from this area to get down between those Queen apartments. And I'm going to walk that for you in a minute, but I think this is really interesting footage to me. And so, yeah,
Yep.
Okay. How do I run now?
just get this off the screen.
Although you'd have to go down there. Okay, we might have to go down there. Yeah.
Love me showing my age, getting out of breath, climbing a
Okay, so
slope.
there's an embankment
It's just because it's cold
here,
outside.
and it would be
Yes,
easy
right. Uh-huh.
for a strapping young person to just jump off this. This is like literally about a 5-foot drop.
Yeah.
You could do it and not hurt yourself if you're young and spry, but
But we're not going to.
we're gonna go walk there, which also is not hard to get to, but let me walk back from Linda Lane to go to the King Road house.
And what time of
We're
day
showing
is
our
it?
age. You hear all that?
This is at 4:00 in the afternoon,
Okay.
which is going to be significant. Yeah, I'll show you why in a minute here.
Puffin' and puffin'?
I know.
What the hell?
I gotta get my inhaler.
Okay, now listen. Here's where this hat is on the ground. There's a little walkway down into this area. Easy peasy. Now, straight in front of us is the Queen Road Apartments. You can go car or foot to the right. Or what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to that staircase I showed you earlier. We're going to the left, right between these two apartment buildings, and down a flight of stairs and right into the King Road house. Right into the King Road house from Linda Lane.
All these people are close enough to hear shit going on in that house, and I'd say these packed apartments.
Count how many doors.
Yeah.
Wasn't there like 200 plus stab wounds?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Nobody heard it.
That you read.
There's a guy sitting there, and I use my wife as a screen so he doesn't see the camera strapped to my
Howdy.
chaps.
Yeah, I was like, that was like the old stuff, right?
Another dog. That must be Murphy barking at me.
There you go. That was the path from Linda Lane Apartments to
So
Queens Road.
close.
Yeah.
Just about.
Turn, Sean.
Yeah, I did. I came across it.
You don't get that vibe when you're watching the stuff, the content. You have no clue how close the stuff is.
Yeah, I'm glad that it translates well on camera. You can see how tight everything is. Okay, this is
So
coming
right
up on the
here
end of the
beside
footage
us,
here.
Linda Lane Apartments with this retaining wall. Queen Road right here with the walkway we just walked between. This again is the a lower parking lot. You can't drive all the way through to Linda Lane because there's this retaining wall right there that would keep you from driving. So you can walk, no problem, little foot area. We'll look at that one more time at the foot area. So right there is the easy footpath from Linda Lane down into the Queen Apartments. And then you can also drive I don't know
Is
if
it
you guys
cold
can hear
out
it.
there during
In
this
the
time?
distance is the Westminster Bells.
Yes, yeah, it was pretty chilly, but you may not hear it very well, but right now in the distance, the Westminster bells are going off, and we're going to time the bells. And this has been a subject of a lot of discussion about the number of bells that chime versus what the clocks or the body cameras put. So we're going to actually, I'm going to play it again. You can hear it in the distance, and we're going to time it. And my wife's going to hold her watch up for a minute. You can actually see what time it is on her watch versus the chimes, which I thought was kind of cool. She didn't even do that on purpose; it just happened.
And then you can also drive.
I'm looking at my watch because I'm like, ooh, bells are going off.
I don't know if you guys can hear it.
You can't.
In the distance is the Westminster Bells. Somebody asked me to time the bells. Can you hear it? We don't have to time them.
403.
Let's time it.
You can hear it.
Oh, here we can hear it better over here. Okay, listen, people, listen. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go, folks. Just like people said, it's one dong off. It went 5 dongs at 4 o'clock, so it just rang 5 times. The bell's ringing 5 times, well after daylight savings time. So is the clock off again? Is it always off? Do they ever change it for daylight savings times? That is a mystery that people have been talking about. I tell you, Rhonda, you have no idea. That whole chime right there is a huge part of the mystery about the timing of this event. People are saying that if you listen to the chimes, it says the wrong time. So just like we showed, it's 4 o'clock here. It should have had 4 bells. It rang 5 times.
Right.
So it's acting like it's 5 o'clock.
Oh, interesting.
You know, I don't think that that's that uncommon because I
Yeah.
remember, like, I went to UC Riverside, and our bells were always off, always off. Like that was just a thing. Like the bell,
Right.
you would like use the bell as like a way to be like, the bells just went off. I'm not late for class. And they're like, yeah, you are. You're still late for class. Everyone has a cell phone, dude. Like you're late.
Right.
I don't think
And
it's that uncommon for it to be
Right.
a little off. We weren't like an hour off, but we were off.
Yeah, and it's funny because Rhonda made the point, well, it would be on time because kids rely on the bell. But you're right. Like I don't know that it's all that big of a thing. And I think part of the reason why people got all bent out of shape on it is because, again, the body worn camera. There's a famous video of a guy standing there and his time says one thing, but the bells in the distance say something else. But we just kind of proved that's what's happening 3 years later at the same time. Is the bells are, it's like they don't
and
switch
that's
it.
what you have to point out, because when people say that you always have to compare, is that normal behavior? And if it's doing the same thing 3 years later, then it's not that suspect 3 years ago. But if it's not doing that same thing 3 years later, then why not? Sam, when the time would change, would the clocks at your school, like with the daylight savings, would they update them?
Yeah, they were never an hour off, but they were always just off. Like, it just wasn't the exact time.
Yeah.
So like the bells would ring, and we would use that to be like, see, we're not late. The bells rang and we're here. But the bell's just ringing. And then the teacher would be like, yeah, well, that's not how this works, dude. And UCR is a huge campus. You think someone will get it right, but then, you think about, like, I don't know, whose job is it to set that, and why do they really care? They just setting off a bell.
Yeah. And that's really the end of the video. I mean, we just walk a few more feet. There's not much else to show, but I'm glad I got to show it with you. I think those who like to microanalyze and really think about things, you can really see on that video how tight all the buildings are. As you can say, if you start to count how many people are living in the buildings around there, you start to ask yourself the questions. How did people not hear screaming? How did people not hear if there was gunshots? How did they not hear what they didn't hear? How did you rule out 90 people in 24 hours or whatever the case may be? Like, there's a lot of really strange questions when you look at it and see how close and tight that whole neighborhood and how many white cars there are in the area. How do you really say? And that was Ann Taylor's, one of Ann Taylor's bitches, right? Which is that you are misleading the jury by saying suspect vehicle 1 enters here, and now suspect vehicle, you're telling them what to believe. That's for the jury to decide if that's the same car, right?
And that's a trial issue of whether or not that was the same. It's two separate issues. Whether or not that was the same car, and can we connect that car to BK? Those are those are two separate issues. But the fact that whether or not that was even a white car, in my opinion, was a trial issue.
Right. So what did you guys think of that video?
Down everybody's throat.
I think it's wild. I think it's wild, but I think it's really demonstrative of this whole case. Is the more you look at it, the more confusing it becomes. Because if you think that everything is far away, then you can kind of imagine a situation where there may be some barrier between witnesses hearing something occur and not. It can become more believable, right? Like, if something's happening 2 football fields away, maybe I can't hear it. But I mean, I don't think there could be more houses where there were. And when I saw where you were driving, it was almost like, it wasn't like a one-way road, but it was like a 1 car at a time road because of how everyone was parked.
Mm-hmm.
And I really would be interested to know who lived there at the time. There's probably 1 or 2 people still there, maybe like 5th-year seniors that maybe were there at the time, but I don't think you'd get 90 people saying they didn't hear anything. I think we just don't know what they said, or that they weren't maybe honest initially with the investigation, or maybe that the investigation didn't grab onto them. I mean,
didn't even ask.
What have we heard from the way that they've sat down with these interviews? Why aren't there a bunch, like, assume they don't want us to look at everything. Okay, fine. But like, why aren't there a bunch of senseless interviews out there of people being like, didn't see anything, slept through the night. Next, didn't see anything, drive a blue car, slept through the night. Why don't we have any of those? I think because there's probably a lot of people that haven't been interviewed and no doubt probably don't want to be interviewed. I understand getting like heebie-jeebies from this, but I don't think it's actually possible that other people that we don't know of haven't heard more things, not even just probably heard what happened that night, but also heard from other people what's going on.
Yeah. And there's an element that some people may be afraid to say something, right? If they think the killer is still out, if they think the real killer or killers is still free, you don't want to be the person who rats that information. So they may be people who are afraid to say what they saw.
I think that's a bigger thing than people think.
Or what about something in between that? What about, I didn't initially say what happened, And now I see that this has happened, and I'm too scared to say that I didn't say anything back then for fear of people saying that I somehow impeded in the investigation, or I knew something and withheld it. And here I've watched somebody whom I don't believe is involved, or whom certainly didn't act alone. I've let that go. I mean, I think there's that personal stress of like, how many, you know, how public has this been, and you haven't said anything until now? Like, I think people probably start getting to the point, unfortunately, where they're like, yeah, I'm going to die with this.
Well, before Sam and I even started this, we talked amongst each other quite a bit of like, hey, like there's going to be some, you know, pushback on this. You're always getting the people that don't like what you're talking about, or that you're bringing up hard questions that may not be aligned with what most people believe. And so I think there is a lot of that. I think that this has been such a sensationalized case that I think there are a lot of people that don't necessarily want to put themselves out there, but maybe they've gotten older, they've matured, and they're like, hey, you know what? I might have heard something 3 years ago when I was there.
I did talk to one local who told me, and again, it's one person, but I did talk to one local who said, there's no one who doesn't think Brian Kohberger did it here. If you ask people, everybody's convinced Brian Kohberger did it, and nobody will say otherwise. So I find that
Almost
weird.
like
Again, it's
yeah,
right. Like, I don't know if it's just confirmation bias or peer pressure. Everybody else thinks it's
that they really believe that, or is that just what we're all supposed to say? Yeah.
Right. Like, we're all supposed to say this. This is the community's stance.
Yeah, this is what we're told to say, and we're sticking by it for 3 years.
Well, I think also too, some of the alternative theories are quite nefarious. And I think that there is a certain amount of stress in being a spokesperson for being involved in a conspiracy, being involved in something that could potentially, you know, if it's as dark as a lot of people think it is, could that not, you know, instantly turn on you or your family? I mean, that's just a safety thing that you have to consider. And Kristen and I honestly think about that a lot in family law, because again, everyone gets divorced, or not every person gets divorced, but there's you either know someone that has, or you're a child of divorce, or your friend went through a custody battle. So it kind of like affects everyone, but there's a lot of danger in it, and there's a lot of safety in it. And, you know, sometimes you have to make a hard call where maybe you really can't represent someone because it is an actual safety risk to you. Like, those things do happen. They don't happen every day, but they do happen. And I think this case continues to be looked in a vacuum from the point of view of like, that's crazy. That would never happen. It could never be that the investigation was botched. It could never be that things get hidden. But we know that's not true. I mean, we have the Innocent Project. We know a bunch of people that are incarcerated are later exonerated. That's a fact. It happens. And I think it's kind of silly that we just try to pretend it doesn't happen unless, like, you know, we absolutely are faced with it and he's getting let out. Then you'd have a whole bunch of people being like, oh, crazy. You know, and they were emphatically against it.
I can't tell you the number of times that I get asked the question, you know, DA, you're an idiot. The guy pled guilty. Nobody pleads guilty to something they didn't do. And I'm like, I don't understand how we live in the same world that you don't realize people plead guilty to things they didn't do all the time. Our system is rigged against people.
With understanding that they really, and I've shared this before, but my husband and I've talked a lot about this, and we see things very differently. But even he, you know, and I think he's actually, I've probably been educating him with stats about all of this now over the last month. But I said, do you know how many people have either been exonerated from something they took a plea deal, or actually convicted of in the last decade? Like, when you start really looking into those stats, it is a lot more common than people think.
Yeah. And, you know, and as an aside too, about being afraid, like, there's a part of me, you know, as a YouTuber, like, what if you start stumbling upon it's Aryan Nights and it was a hit and people were murdered, and I'm a YouTuber who starts making the connections, right? And if you start, and then am I at danger going, hey, I can prove Quinn was there and he wasn't in Boise, Idaho, and he lied about his alibi. Am somebody going to come rub me out in the middle of the night and be like, that guy needs to shut his effing mouth? Like, so there's a fear
you
level.
Never know. You have to be really careful with stuff like that. And but then when you think about specifically the guilty plea, like, all of those are like, oh, we were on the fence. But then once he took the plea, then, you know, we knew it was for sure him, because nobody would do that. And like, take whatever theory out of it you want. Like, you're in prison.
Yeah.
You're telling me that anyone reasonably believes that while in prison, you would not be susceptible to a potential threat. I'm
Yeah.
not pointing at any organization, any person, anything. I'm just saying you're telling me that you don't think that there's actual threats that occur while in prison?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I think everyone has to agree those occur, whether it went directly to the plea or not, you don't know. But you have to think the crazy amount of stress you're in, the public scrutiny, your family, maybe what your family's telling you about things. And then
Your
don't
sister
think,
ends up on the prosecution's witness list as well as the defense. That
yeah.
Right.
you know, your
And
mom.
I don't think until you're faced with a potential firing squad, can you really judge whether someone wants to take a plea or not, because you don't know how much someone is going to qualify their own life. It would give me pause.
Yeah.
I can tell you it would really give me pause, and maybe someone else wouldn't feel that way. And maybe someone else can genuinely say, no, I take the whole thing to trial. But I think there's a lot more people that when they think they might really be going down, might decide the lesser option, the more clear
Yeah.
option.
Well, and think about this. I mean, I've said this before, but I really feel like there's a real strong, tell me if you think I'm crazy. Maybe Kohberger was planning on fighting this all the way, right? He's like, I can't wait to be exonerated. I'm going to go all the way. And then his mom realizes they're going to execute him. My son's not getting a fair trial. You're going to get executed. And she begs her son, I want to have my son. I want to be able to, they're going to put you to death. I'm going to lose a son over this. So maybe Kohberger's like, you know what? Maybe I'll hope for something to come out. Maybe something will exonerate me in the future. Maybe some new exculpatory information is going to come out to prove I couldn't have been there and I'll get out. But my mom's begging me, don't let them take my kid, because I at least we'll have some kind of life. I'll be able to talk to you. And if you get killed, and they're going to kill you because you're getting an unfair trial, take the plea deal so I can have a son.
I think that's totally a reason why someone would do that. Take that. In addition, add your conditions. You don't know. You probably feel quite isolated. You're confused. You're probably not sleeping. And remember, you're not just like taking a plea and then every day you stand up and go, yes, and now I affirm my plea. You take a plea and then you go there and then you're done.
Yeah.
Subject to potential appeals or something else to do. I mean, he could have took it and he could have since that day after that been like, that was the dumbest decision I could have made, especially now that all the stuff's getting out. Like he could regret that plea deeply. That doesn't necessarily mean he can get out of it, but that could still just have been a game time decision for him.
Right. And I'm
some of the interactions between Brian and Ann, I think it might have been the sentence, or at least the change of the plea hearing and the sentencing. There's a couple that are very like, I feel like she's saying, breathe.
Yes.
We got to get through this. It's going to be like, some of it is not like my client is being sentenced to prison for the rest of his life. I mean, I think there's even a couple smirks in there. I don't think he's celebrating. Yeah. But there's a couple where she has like a good smirk and I think she's like patting his back or something. It was almost like, we got this. We're a team. It's going to get better. Like I just got that vibe that they had some conversations. Like, we just need to get through this last hearing and then we're on the other side of this and we keep digging and we keep digging. But I think
I agree
with Sam, and also just potential threats against the family.
Yeah, I agree with you. There was a moment, when he came in for the plea, she touched his arm and kind of asked him if he was okay. And he was like nodded. And I think, again, on a plea deal, and I've said this over and over again, if they waver on any part of the plea deal's off. They have to answer affirmatively on everything. So let's say Kohberger knows it didn't happen the way that they're going to make him say, but she's got to say, are you able to do this? Are you going to, because the plea deal is going to be off the table if any one of us say, I'm not sure. You need to be, and so maybe she asked, like, do you got this? And he's like, yeah, I got this. And they did their thing. And there was even a moment, and I've said it before. You may have heard me say it. There was a moment. It was so interesting. Hippler says, and did you have enough time to review all the discovery? And he smirks because he knows it's a joke. Ann Taylor had just told him the day before, practically, I haven't had enough time to review all the evidence, but she has to agree in the affirmative as part of the plea deal. Did you give a proper defense? Did you have time to make a proper defense? And he asks her, and he can't even keep a straight face, did you have time to do it? And she rolled her eyes and said, yes, Your Honor. And I'm like, oh my God.
That? I'm gonna have to go back and watch that.
Yeah, it's great. It's a moment where you can tell he knows it's a joke asking her. She pauses in the answer and rolls her eyes like, yeah, I've had enough time. Like, it was clearly under duress, but the answer is, yeah, we had enough time because they
Understanding.
have to for the plea deal.
Yeah, and you don't know. I mean, if he doesn't take that plea deal, there might not be another one. So there's got to be some pressure with that too. It's a difficult situation for me to ever say that just because someone took a plea deal, it means that they're guilty. I think that lacks a lot of thought into, especially this scenario. It just, none of it really adds up, and I think it's reasonable to assume that someone would potentially take a plea deal. Like, it is just reasonable that someone might do that.
Well, I'm super excited to have you guys on, and I'm glad that we had the opportunity to talk. I'm curious if you're willing to put your neck out and say, do you feel that Hitler was a fair judge? You know, how do you feel? Was he neutral enough that was there just moments where maybe he could have been better, or do you feel like he was biased from the get-go?
So I don't know that I've seen every moment of every live hearing, and I think there was a lot of stuff that we weren't privy to that were closed, and so I don't know that I can come across and say that he was biased every second of this entire case. I do think that there were moments, to me, that it was very objectively transparent that he had already made up in his head one way or the other. I think that there could have been a different outcome with respect to some of the decisions that Hitler made if you had 3 judges. I think that you would have had mixed reviews. For instance, that alternate theory, but again, that's the problem, is we don't know exactly what Anne presented with respect to that evidence and that theory.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to make a statement like that, all or nothing. I do think there's moments that I thought he could have been better. I do think there's moments where I was like, wow, this appears to be more biased than any judge should. But again, I think so much is redacted and so much is kept from us. And I don't understand with all the redactions. I just think there's so much that we don't know.
Yeah. And just to kind of add on to that, like, how I feel is it's always difficult when, even though we have a lot more information than we had at the time, you still don't have all the information and everything that was going on between the attorneys and all of those communications and all of that sort of casework that was happening. We only get like a glimpse of what happens in court that day. So we don't get everything, which, you know, is an issue. But in general, when I'm looking at a judge and I'm thinking, okay, like, generally, we need you to have some impartiality. We don't want to believe that you have any bias against either party. We want due process to be followed, the law, the procedure correctly. We want you to have, you know, judicial ethics. We want to make sure you're avoiding conflicts of interest, that you're maintaining court decorum, you're listening, you're fairly applying the law, and you want the appearance of not having that sort of impartiality issue, right? Like, so for me, the struggle I have with most judicial officers in situations like this is I feel like you are tasked with a tough job because there's the yaysayers and the naysayers, and you aren't always
they take that job voluntarily. Like,
sure, but you aren't always the most popular person in the room, and you're kind of tasked, or you're supposed to be tasked with not like succumbing to that pressure, right? But the issue I have is that some decisions don't totally appear to be made without bias. They appear to add a more personal aspect to it, appear to add, well, you know, we've already kind of assumed you've done it. And that to me is not, it's not careful enough for me to believe that there's always a fair trial. And that's like what we're supposed to constitutionally have, is that fair trial. So like, I don't know if you could say like, if this decision was different, things would be different. But I mean, it all has a chain reaction. Like, the decision on whether or not to disseminate information or have a gag order, that's going to have a decision. Now, that decision may have been the right one, despite popular belief, because maybe no fair trial could be had if you didn't disseminate that. But maybe more likely, no one's really getting all that information, and you couldn't have had a fair trial anyways because the media already convicted you. So I don't know that I can make the causal link. I just think that things like, no, you can't.
Oh, shit.
When you're defending your like liberty and your life, I struggle with that. I deeply struggle with that.
I spend a lot of, I'm not a body language expert, but I spend a lot of time watching body language. And my summation of Hitler in the trial is this. I felt like Hitler believed Brian Kohberger was guilty for pretty much the entire trial, personally believed he was guilty, but still wanted to see it go to trial. And I think Hippler was a little pissed off that the plea deal came in last minute. I think Hippler actually, I feel Hippler wanted to see it play out in the court. Like, I think he felt in his heart that BK was guilty, but he wanted to see it play out. And I think he was a little irritated that the plea deal came in the way that he did. And I almost felt like he was trying to give Kohberger an out at the end. Like, look, I want you to hear what they would have had to present it against you and what they actually had. And you had the right to bring people to the stand on your behalf and subpoena them to get them into thing. You know, you can fight this. And I don't want you to plead guilty to something you didn't do. Now, some of that's standard language, I think. Yes. But I just felt like it really was genuine. Like, he was a little irritated that this wasn't going to go to trial and it was going to end at the very last second with the plea deal. And like, really, we're never going to hear what actually happened or fight it out.
Both may be true, right? Because he's no doubt creating a record to try to prevent Brian from setting aside a plea by making him make these affirmations. But Kristen has always said this, as long as I've known her, and I think it is very true, is you need to remember that judges are also humans.
Right.
So even if he wasn't trying to be like take Hippler out, put a different judge in, even a different judge that's trying not to be biased in a situation, maybe is still failing at that. It's a really it's human gymnastics. It's an impossible task. So if you get someone that's doing it for too long and they're a human and they're pissed off, they've already made their decision, even if they're going, no, I'm putting on my robe and I'm operating without bias, those things that's not always true. Even if you really feel like, you could delusionally feel that you're not operating with bias, but you still are.
Yeah.
Well, and look at the first judge, Judge, right? He retired the day after the case was transferred.
Right.
I mean, literally, I think it was like a day or two early retirement. I'm out.
Yeah.
Okay, that speaks a little bit. And
it does.
There was one comment made by Hippler earlier in the case, and I can't remember exactly what hearing it was, but it was kind of the turning point with me that I really started watching to be more cognizant of objectivity or biasness. And he said something, but they have his DNA at the scene. And I'm assuming it was whether or not evidence was going to be allowed in. And when he made that comment, I was like, you are not supposed to be making that. Like, this is a trial issue.
I want to say what you're talking about is the famous, I quote it all the time. DNA is DNA every day of the week and twice on Sunday. It's like his attitude was, well, this is an open and shut case. His DNA is at the scene.
Because
and like,
your DNA, touch or not.
Right. And I thought that was completely inappropriate. Yeah.
I found that to be a turning point where I was really like, okay, if this is up on appeal and I'm an appellate attorney, and I'm a team with a bunch of really, really intelligent appellate attorneys, that is one thing that I'm grabbing at. And there's so much that is still redacted. Like, there was a really aggressive in the courtroom argument, and it was about the alternate suspect, and it was with Ann Taylor's associate. What was her name? Kayla? What was her name?
I'm blanking on it too.
Okay. Ann Taylor's associate. I'm having a mind blank right
on
now.
her team. Yeah.
Yeah, but she actually was the one making the argument. And we get the transcripts, but it's 90% of the argument is redacted. But you could tell there's little few words. You can tell that it was about the alternate suspect theory. And you could tell that Hippler and this attorney I think it was Kayla. They were going at it. They were going at it. But it's like, why is that redacted? Why is that redacted?
Right. Like, the entire thing practically was redacted. Like,
right here. Let's talk about it. Be transparent.
Yeah, they're out of Sharpies. There's way too much redaction.
Right.
Yeah.
They're straight up out of Sharpies.
Yeah, that document was ridiculously redacted. I couldn't believe it.
And honestly, it probably, this way I look at it, it may not even have really helped anyone. But if you're transparent about it, then nobody's making assumptions and going down this, further down the rabbit hole that we all are, because nothing is there.
Yeah.
Now Sam and I were talking the other day with all the body cam and all of the interviews. Do you believe that there is a lot with respect to questions, follow-up questions that have not been released? Because there's no way when you're listening to these investigations that they just stop, like someone says, did anyone use any rugs? Yeah. And then they just move on to another topic, right?
Right.
There is no way that investigation on that issue ended with yes, but okay, let's talk about the weather. So do you think that they've hid a lot from from what's been available, not even just redacting, that they are editing or just not allowing us to have a lot of the information.
So the sad answer is, I think we have seen it all. They just didn't ask the follow-up questions. And I think that's the problem I have. Why don't you ask the follow-up questions? And I think the answer to that is you don't ask questions you already know the answers to. Like,
you don't want to put in a report.
Right. You don't want to know. So I feel like,
Or you already
I mean, I get what your point is. Like, but how could they really be hiding a bunch more stuff? They've released a crap ton of stuff. And I just feel like if it was there, we would have seen it.
I think we're just not getting chunks of it. I think there's a very good that we're not getting. Say the interview is 90 minutes and we're getting an hour and 12 minutes. Why? And I don't know that we will ever get it or that we will ever know that we're not getting it. But
right.
I just think there is no way.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe both things are true. It's like, no doubt a lot of questions are not being asked. I think Kristen and I could not have cringed more at the lack of follow-up questions. And obviously, if those were the type of questions being asked to, clear 90 people in 24 hours, like 15 minutes a person, that's an issue too, right? So like, I think the investigation no doubt has like huge question marks on it. But I wonder how many things are out there that didn't even make it to the court file or the court proceedings, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe everything that was set on track for trial, despite the epic redactions, has been released. But what about the other stuff? There's certainly discovery that wasn't complete, truly.
I think to this day, Anne's still saying that she hasn't received it all, that there's
so I think there's maybe we have everything that's like currently there.
But are we hoping that something's going to come forward and we're going to be like, if I had known that, I would have been convinced of do we think they're holding on to something that when we see it, we're going to be like, oh, that makes all the difference. If we had known that, then that, because I feel like they've shown all their cards. They didn't have anything but a circumstantial case. There can't be some smoking gun they've got that proves anything. I don't
feel necessarily on their end. I think there might be something that comes up on our end.
I mean, like kind of, but to risk being annoying, so when you think about the Discovery Act, right? Yeah. And I'm operating off California law, but most states have similar schemes. You are exchanging information with the other side. And there isn't unless it's impeachment, there isn't supposed to be these like aha moments per se.
Right.
It's not supposed to be trial by fire. You have to exchange what you have by certain deadlines, yada, yada, yada. But what is discoverable is typically, like in California, our code says it's reasonably calculated to lead to the discovery of admissible evidence, which pretty much means everything. And so Kristen and I will go back and forth in these discovery battles, if you will, with the other side, where we want all this information. They're saying you're entitled to some of it, but this stuff's privileged. This stuff's not relevant. We're like, yes, that is relevant. No, it's not. We file a motion. Your Honor, here's why it's relevant. And so you engage in a lot of back and forth, and some of it seems silly, but some of it's really important because you never know what piece of evidence could lead to the discovery of other pieces of evidence. And I just think when you have Ann Taylor up there saying, I'm not ready.
And she's still saying
kind of
that she hasn't gotten evidence.
Me that maybe part of that is you haven't been able to go through the evidence, but maybe the other part is when you went through the evidence, you'd find a little nugget and then you'd want to go discover something else. And then they would need to respond to it, or a third party would need to respond to it. So I think that, like, again, it's not necessarily like they're hiding something to not give to the public, but it's like, did that process really get complete? And was it, did Ann Taylor have the resources to complete it with her very small team? I don't know. And so I hope the answer to your question is that, there is an aha out there and who knows where it is, but I don't feel settled with the whole thing at all.
And I think it might either be someone that's going to come out and say that they had information that they didn't for whatever reason, or they were threatened or whatever it is, or it's going to come out that something exists that was withheld, whether it was intentionally or unintentionally. And I mean, look at where we are today. Look at all these crimes that are being solved from DNA that have been cold cases or wrongful convictions for the last 30, 40 years. I mean, with that Yogurland murders, isn't that crazy that all of a sudden, we realized that the person that was convicted wasn't the person that did it. And because of DNA, we were actually identified.
And I realize you're not criminal murder defense trial lawyers, but I'm going to ask you a legal question to see what you think about this. I stated before, the plea deal is set set the details. You did this, you did it alone, you went into the house and you did these things. Now we know that accomplice to murder is still punishable by death and all the different things that just like murder, if it's an accomplice to murder. But if it can be proven, if there's evidence to prove that Kohberger did it with someone else, but his plea deal says, I did it and I did it alone. What happens in that scenario if it comes out that there was somebody else in the house and it factually is incorrect, that he didn't do it the way? Now, he would still have been committed murder, but what does it do to the plea deal?
The way you're saying it, if someone else, if you can prove someone else did it, ultimately we have a whole show coming up on this with our appellate specialist that works with us. But the way you just said it, if there was someone else involved, was I just there?
Right.
Did I do some other part potentially of the crime, but I didn't commit the unalivings?
Right.
Because that's the way, like, if I'm hearing somebody else was there, how do I know that? And did that evidence exist at the time of the plea deal? And if it didn't, why not? But you're getting into the potential causes of action to try to set aside the plea deal.
Right. Like if like I said, and we got to wrap up. I know we're at 2 hours, but if, as I said, one of the first videos I made on Idaho 4 is, what if Brian Kohberger was just the getaway driver? What if he brought somebody to the scene? And what if they know?
I've thoughts about that, or
right?
the cleanup,
right?
crew,
or the cleanup,
you know?
right? So what if law enforcement knows?
Who knows?
Yeah. So what if they know Kohberger was there, but they just can't place him as doing the murders, right?
See, I think that is a big possibility.
Yeah, and
so
then the question,
why they know that.
Yeah, right.
I wonder. I think there might be more to that, though. Like your hypothetical, because I'm assuming that, and this is an assumption, but I'm assuming that part of Brian's plea, it's his own independent plea agreement. So this wouldn't exonerate him, right? Like if someone else came around and maybe there's another theory that maybe they could take that other person to trial, and maybe that's kind of a hard play for a jury because they're like, wait, didn't that happen? I'm confused. Right. But you would think that it would be his own independent plea. So you would think that and that's the part where I think Ron would be, so it would be a great show, but like he's very good at like, okay, ineffective counsel, that could be a reason to set aside a plea.
People think that's bad. It really doesn't mean that Ann did a bad job. Like people think that would be like a personal attack of Ann, but it's not.
Right. But yeah, I think it would need to be more of a conditional plea. I don't think you could aha it by being like, see, I agreed to your wrong facts now, and see, it's these other facts. So now I'm, and I would need to look at the plea more. And I'm certainly not a criminal defense attorney by any means, but I would be kind of shocked if an accomplice, I think that they would be in hot water and they could be charged with a crime, but I would be shocked that would disrupt Brian's, but unless he that then put everyone back into this like reasonable doubt. Hey, like, is this a miscarriage of justice, or how do we handle it? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go crazy with the hypothesis, but if Kohberger, let me give you just a scenario. If Kohberger drove somebody to the scene, that was the killer, and the killer went in and did the killings, and Kohberger was supposed to drive them, and maybe he took off and he got panicked. He heard screams and he took off. I know it's a long hypothetical. So he was there, he knows he was there, but he's maintaining all through the trial his factual innocence. The fact is, I never went into the house, and he knows he never went into the house. Now, maybe he was in the car, maybe his transfer DNA got onto the knife sheath of the killer that stepped out of his car, and that's how his DNA got there. So he knows he's partially screwed because he was there and he's an accomplice to murder, but he didn't actually do it. Can he argue, yeah, I'm guilty of something, but I didn't kill anybody. I'm not the one that killed him. I don't know.
Honestly, that's a really good question. We'll have to go over with Ron, but I think if there could be some evidence, and this is me talking out loud, I'm not an appellate attorney or criminal defense, but if there was some evidence that maybe didn't exist at the time the plea was entered that would support the fact that he only did the driving, and that was the extent of it, and there was evidence that supported that he did not commit the unalivings, I think that there's potentially an argument for an appellate attorney to come in and at least do the research about that, because I think that would be pretty heavy.
And couldn't he argue if the killer's still alive, the real killer's still alive, and maybe connected to a big organization like a drug cartel or whatever, maybe he's terrified that snitching is going to get him killed. So it's better for him to shut his mouth and take the plea, because then he'll live. But if he snitches and says, yeah, by the way, here's the guy I drove to the scene that did the killings, they're going to kill him. They're going to kill him inside the prison for snitching on the guy.
I think we should definitely ask Ron all these questions, because I have my opinion, but it's my knee jerk. I'm not a criminal defense attorney in Idaho opinion, and Ron's really good at doing that research. So like, I'll definitely defer to him on that. But my kind of knee jerk reaction is that when you're entering a plea and you're looking to set it aside, you're looking like, did they voluntarily enter this? Did they do it knowingly? Did they have effective counsel? Is there new evidence that maybe affects their guilt? And it seems like in your scenario, he's like the getaway driver, right? But like the accomplice, and I don't know Idaho's laws, but like a lot of times the accomplice and the person that is like a co-felon and is committing the murder with someone is also guilty of the murder.
Yes. Right.
So, so like, if I'm thinking that through, does that really get him out of it? Like, hey, I didn't actually do it, but I was a co-felon, and I didn't do it, but I was there, and I was in the getaway car, and So then isn't he kind of then back to being a co-felon accomplice to murder, which would then, again, I don't know Idaho state laws. So this is just me thinking out loud.
And again, I keep saying I don't want to go too crazy with it, but one other scenario posited. What if somebody said, hey, can you take me by the house? I got to go in and get something of my stuff. Didn't know a murder was going to happen. Here's screams going on inside the house, and peels out and leaves the guy there. And then he's like, I didn't even know what was going to happen. I was delivering a friend to the house to pick up his stuff. Then all of a sudden things went sideways. I mean, there's a million scenarios you can go. And I'm just trying to think, is there any scenario that would come up with that?
And I hear you. And it's funny because this is like what law school exams are about. So my answers are all law school approved, you guys. It's not, I'm not a criminal defense attorney in Idaho, but like, so then I think, okay, like then you obviously, maybe you weren't a co-felon, and maybe you showed up and didn't know what happened, but then what happened after? Did you know information and then you lied to law enforcement about it, and now you have credibility issues? And is there another crime that you committed by doing that? Now you're like, maybe you're not a co-conspirator, but you're like an after the fact
alibi that hurts him. It's his alibi.
It'd be a super hard sell. Yeah.
But then like to like add to your fact, like, but what if part of that was that you were being threatened?
Right.
And
you were compelled and threatened,
and does that have an effect? And I don't know. Maybe Idaho state laws, maybe it doesn't matter if you were threatened. Maybe you still couldn't have done that. I don't know. But I mean, I think that the point is that I don't think this is over. And I think that the reason that everyone has questions is because there's a lot of concern here. And I think that even if people think he did it, it's hard to stomach that the factual story that's been, played out doesn't match any of the evidence that any of us are looking at. So it's hard.
It doesn't even match the storyline the media is trying to put out.
And I think it's kind of, it's an easy plug to be like, oh, well, stalker, so who knows why they did it? Like that no matter what happens, we can throw it in that category. Who knows? Who knows why people do things? And so then the motive for me doesn't track. It's not like a well-oiled motive. It's kind of like just someone seen a whole bunch of serial killer movies, and that's what serial killers do. You don't know what they're doing. They just do it.
I think at the end of the day, I think a lot of the reason why people can't let this go is the 911 call and the delay. Mm-hmm. That's bugging everyone. And it's the reason why we're asking questions. And then when you look at the questions,
they can't put them in the house. Those are those for me were the two things I couldn't get past. Yeah. I can wrap my head around a lot of it. I can wrap my head. Hey, okay. It doesn't make sense, but I can at least go there. But the 911 call, the roommates being in the house, Bethany said she saw the firework or the flashbang, heard someone fall. We don't ask follow-up questions about how what do you mean you heard someone fall? So I like 5 times. I keep doing these things on my phone settings and I don't know what I'm doing with my phone. So I keep thinking I'm hitting my ringer, but now it's on like gray mode.
Now you
so I don't even know how to, it's like a true story. I'm always like, Sam, I'm not sure how this color won't come off my phone now. But yeah, no, I think those are just, and I think even people that believe that he did it, there's no way you are objectively looking at this evidence coming out and still listening to Steve G on live interviews as recent as a couple weeks ago, still saying that they were sleeping, because that is followed up the next week with the fact that they all had defense wounds. So even if you think he did it, you cannot follow the storyline week to week and still support that there is no reasonable doubt that one of these things didn't happen.
Right. And so at the end of the day, I defend myself to say I'm not an asshole for asking questions. If the story didn't stink to high heaven, we wouldn't be asking questions.
For sure, we'd all be on the next one.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
why can't I say what's the deal with the 8-hour delay in the 911 call? And why can't you give me a very convincing reason why that makes sense? And then let's go to the next piece of confusion, and the next and the next and the next. And there's so many. Like, I want somebody, listen, like, as an attorney, Kristen and I do this. Sometimes we're on one side, sometimes we're on the other side, and you're going through the evidence and you're trying to put your case on, and you're following the evidence, you're laying the foundation for it, you're getting it admitted. And that's just the legal process. So I'm like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why touch DNA and no other DNA makes sense. Tell me why
none. That's wild.
And I think I've got a friend, Joe State of the Deep. I don't know if you've seen him on my show and stuff like that, but Joe made a great point. If any one of these things by themselves didn't have a great answer, like why did they delay, whatever, we might have been able to let it go, but it's not one thing. It's not. How do you say they're sleeping, but then you later on find out that they were awake and fighting back and there was defensive wounds? How do you say that there was a delay in the call? Why are you texting people when you said you were sleeping, but now we know you were texting people all the way down?
Like DoorDash. Why is nobody from DoorDash actually given us any information to verify the validity of the DoorDash?
And I mean, even Dylan's, I think it was her second interview, she is confused as to whether she was apparently dreaming or not.
Right.
So she's telling you, I'm not sure that you can believe my story.
Right.
But here it is. I'm really not sure that you can believe it. But then believe why I didn't call, or we didn't call sooner. Believe all the other stuff. But by the way, I don't totally believe myself. I'm just throwing that out there. Like, she doesn't believe herself.
Yeah. And like I said, any one of those things you might be able to pass off as, well, she was confused, or but there are so many. If you made a list of all the things that don't make sense, it's ridiculous. It's too hard. Yeah, it's too hard.
Way too many coincidences.
Well, and I say, like, okay, even if there's one coincidence, 2, 10, that's fine. Have as many coincidences as you want. But at the end of the day, you need to have enough evidence to prevent me from having doubt. And you don't got a lot of hope here for me. There's so much doubt that you can't look anywhere and not find out. Like, maybe these third parties that passed away, maybe that's irrelevant, but it's still doubt. Maybe.
Have you guys even heard a reasonable response to the 911 call that you actually believe yourself? Because I haven't.
But it's all doubt. Like, my point is, I don't have to know what happened. I don't have to know why. I just have to know that what's being told to me causes doubt, and that's the legal standard. And it's like, of course I want to know deeply, like, what really happened, and that's like the evidence that I think
I just want to know why nobody called 911
we're like yearning for that. We're like the discovery wasn't done.
Give me a reasonable answer by that, I might move on to the next 2 or 3 things. But all we hear is, they were
scared.
They were scared. They were sleeping. They were taking Tylenol. They had a toothache. Not what I have not heard something that is actually a legitimate, rational response.
Yeah.
And yet, call at 4 a.m, why didn't you call at 9 a.m. or 10
a.m? And not to get on a soapbox, and yet when you question the girl's story, a lot of people say you're victim shaming, leave these poor girls alone, blah, blah, blah. All you get is how much of a piece of shit you are for questioning the girls. And you're like, the girl's story sucks. A grand jury said the girl's story sucked.
A person interest until proven otherwise.
Well, and to that I say, look, like, I know you're in a hard position if you're a witness and you're this close to a crime, and maybe you have absolutely nothing to do with it. And like, I can empathize with that. I can empathize with the fact that people may be pointing the finger at people that they shouldn't be. But like, if you are looking at Dylan specifically, like, the truth is, she is actually saying, don't believe me, I'm dreaming. I might be dreaming. Like, so then you can't.
And I took melatonin.
You can't turn around and get mad at me for my credibility, maybe, or for attacking the credibility because she doesn't believe it. Maybe she's saying what she truly believes happened. Maybe she's been as honest as she possibly can, but as honest as she possibly can, she still says, I'm being so honest when I say I think I was dreaming. So we have to say, okay, so we can't actually take your statements for credible, even if you're trying your hardest. If you want to get mad at me for victim shaming, that's fine. Let's say she did her absolute best, but her own words say don't believe her. She's saying don't believe her.
Yeah, and yet we pick and choose when we want to believe her. Oh,
that's the thing. We pick and choose what is credible.
With his eyebrows, the height is consistent with his height, but she's not even sure. She dreamt the whole thing, and she's not sure. Or the bombshell. Maybe the killer left me alone because he recognized me and he didn't want to hurt me, kind of thing. Like those kind of statements were made as well. There's so many problems with.
Or I can't remember if the light was on or it was off, or where he was holding an object up or was he holding it down. And again, I feel for her. Let's assume for one moment that everything she's saying is completely exactly what she believes. If it is, then as tragic as the whole thing is, it's still a bad witness. It's still a witness that has.
But that's their key witness. That's what's crazy. That's their key witness.
But that witness has no credibility per that witness. Her, she is screaming to the top of the mountain, don't believe me, I might be dreaming. And that's where I think
that cross-examination.
But that's where I also think when you're talking about the investigation that happened and how stressful it is to like watch the questions not be asked, it's like, well, if there were legitimate answers for this and they weren't coming out in the investigation, then shame on the investigators for not fleshing it out, because maybe if they asked better questions about timing and whether she had a history of memory loss and when actually she can testify that or explain that she actually knows her memory's totally back, and like how does she know she's telling the truth now, and who did she talk to before she talked to them? Like if those were fleshed out and she had good answers for it, maybe no one would be looking at her, but maybe they also would be able to use that to support the fact that Brian's convicted.
But don't say on one hand that you saw him and you could identify him, and then on the other hand that you were dreaming, took melatonin, drank 12, 15 White Claws or whatever it was, and you couldn't recognize anything because they had a full mask on. She picks and chooses when she saw something or when she can identify him, and then when she doesn't know anything.
Yeah, and I guess from the legal standpoint, this is why I say they had no credible witness. Dylan's credibility would have been destroyed in
I think
the courtroom.
That any attorney, if they put on a show with that cross-examination, it could have been the most powerful 1 day in that 2-3 days in that entire case. And top of that, there was all kinds of problems with the IgG information and the DNA. That was going to be a shit show. Homework on that. They won't even show the custody of the homework.
That would have been a shit show.
Just one thing, if you put her on the stand in the trial and you're talking to her and you're asking her, do you think you were dreaming? And she says yes. Then how could anyone reasonably believe her testimony? And if she alternatively gets up there and says, no, I saw this person, well, then she's certainly not credible and she can be impeached because way closer to the crime, she wasn't saying that. So how is her now changed?
Then you pull up the Vampire Diaries episode that says,
she's literally, I'm here to help you. Yeah. And she said watching that show. Yeah.
And she said she was watching it. I mean, could you imagine pulling that up as a clip and say, was this the episode you were watching? And, I mean, that is way more than a coincidence in my opinion.
This is again, to enumerate, this is why I say that they had no witness because her credibility was shot. They had nobody put it.
Oh, by the way, they put in their police reports that there was evidence that everything was cleaned up.
Yeah, right. So the star witness, no credibility. The DNA evidence, they don't want to show how they developed it. That would have been completely fought. Like I don't see how a jury doesn't see problems and reasonable doubt in this case. And that's why we're not going to trial.
You're also assuming we have a super reasonable jury that doesn't know anything about this case. You just said, like you were saying, your experience is that everybody in that town believes with conviction that he did it in spite of all of this that's come out. I can see that being the case 3 years ago, but that's hard for me to wrap my heads around unless this is what you are being brainwashed with. This is what you are being told, and this is what our position is. I think that there's a potential that the jury could have felt the same way.
Well, I think this is a good place to stop because I could talk to you guys for.
Well, we'll do a series with you, Lee, and we'll have you on our show too. But we definitely, I mean, We love the legal questions. You can bring us. But I just want to say, I loved your footage.
Thanks.
I have, like I said, I probably watched 200 hours, but it is very hard. I did not realize how close things were. I didn't realize how tight it was. I didn't realize there were many different focal points of the residence, that it could have been just as easy to go through the front door as the back door, that just because there's a pair of van footprints in the snow, that's our automatic, target, because you can actually walk from many different apartment, places.
Yeah.
So what it showed me is that the Dateline whole episode with respect to that car, I'd like to go watch that now, knowing what we know of how close everything is. I want to go watch it again and see how many more problems I have with it.
Yeah.
I think
no
he did
doubt.
a killer job with that.
And last thought, Lee, just because I can't shut up, is the videos that you just took, like that's the potential evidence that I'm talking about. Like, doesn't that just open your mind to, okay, how many other people out there maybe know something that we haven't been able to talk about? So I think it's really cool that you did that. And thank you so much for having us on the show. We're like very excited to continue to have these conversations, and thank you very much.
Yeah. I super hope we do.
Lee, I have one question for your chat. Anybody watching this in a chat, I would love to know approximately how many people live in each of those apartments in the immediate surrounding area. Let's just have I want to make sure we have an educated guess.
Like a straw poll.
Yeah.
Like how many people lived in there?
If we can say at that time in November, there were approximately 200 people living within one football field and not one person heard it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's probably more than that, because as a former college student, we would pack into those little apartments, and we weren't always telling everyone who was on the lease, or you're sleeping at your boyfriend's house that night. I think there's a lot more than just.
Can you imagine that 200 people say we didn't hear anything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that means that there is something else going on.
Yeah. Absolutely. What a great show. I want to do this again. I really want to talk to you guys again, because I got a million legal questions I didn't ask. I'm going to hit end record. If you guys can hang around a little bit just for the buffering to get done and loaded to the cloud, that'd be great. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. And I'm going to go ahead and kill it now.
Thank you, Lee. We had a blast, and we'll definitely have you on before Christmas if you're up for it.
I'd love it. I'd love it. Yeah.
And we can make a series out of this. Sam loves all the legal questions, and I'm always here for it too. But
I do get on that soapbox.
I do. I have a nonstop stream of legal questions.
You won't find anyone else better to analyze those tough evidence questions. That's what Sam is very, very good at.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh wait, we got to.